Oh, wow. Somebody told me in Tactics you get bonus items for having the pre-order. Is that unethical to redeem those items?
So for
Democrats online are big mad. Not me, but before we get to my contrarian take, Will, what do you make of the deal?
Well, Tim, I'm afraid we probably agree more than you'd like.
Okay, no,
to me, the key word in what you just said was online. Democrats online are really pissed off. This is not an online thing. This is a real life thing, okay? And I know that people wish that the Republicans would have folded because of the pain that a lot of people were suffering because of the shutdown. But the sad truth is that the Republican Party doesn't care as much about the pain as the Democratic Party does.
You can care at all. I think we can say. It pretty much doesn't care at all.
Absolutely. And you can call that a political weakness, and I guess it is. But if you are doing the right thing, that will always be a political weakness. I don't have a problem with this deal. Okay, I just don't have a problem with it. You know, there was people losing SNAP benefits, people going hungry, for God's sake, all the federal employees who were out of work. There was obviously the air traffic problem. Are
you a hat guy? I feel so unbelievably uncomfortable in hats, like to a pathological level. I should learn to wear them a little bit more. But
Democrats did not sell out forever. Okay, they made this deal until the end of January. That's it. It went from the 4-month period from where we started. What's it now? 2.5 months away. Yeah. So it's a short-term concession to end the immediate. They got the SNAP benefits extended. I don't have a problem with the deal. Plus, the healthcare debate. It's not ended. People think like, we should have held out more. We should have had people suffer more right now for healthcare. The healthcare debate is front and center. It will remain front and center. There's going to be a vote next month. There's going to be a vote.
Again, I know you guys get ass pain because you feel strongly about it. I could have seen this going either way. Like I probably would have supported holding out, I think. But like, I think this is a really good off-ramp. Fuck. You guys post too much on the subreddit. Oh, was it this one? The 40 million Americans on SNAP benefits watching social media meltdown because they're not being starved as a political optic strategy. Based. Okay, sorry.
Vote in December.
Not to say one way was right or wrong, but
our colleague Jonathan Cohn pointed out the premium hikes are going to go into effect in January before the next time that that we have this next shutdown debate. So I don't think it's a terrible loss. I think Democrats are still standing up for what they fought for. And I think only if you are so online that you don't feel the pain that a lot of people are feeling over the shutdown, would you think this is a total sellout? Yeah.
So here's my view on it, which is this. If you came into this shutdown fight like I did, which was, what was the objectives of it? Well, I thought it was worth doing for this reason. I thought it was worth doing to make the Republicans own something. Like they chose to be healthcare. It could have been something else. They chose healthcare, make them own this. They make them own their own policies, make clear that the Democrats are on the other side of that fight. They've done that. The other objective was to demonstrate that the Democrats have a pulse and are awake and there's blood flowing through their veins. They did that. If you came into the shutdown fight thinking that your goal was that the Obamacare subsidies are going to be restored, I think that we're setting yourself up to be disappointed no matter what, because the Republicans control the government and control the House of Representatives, and there was no amount of pain that was going to make these. You can't negotiate with kamikazes. You can't negotiate with people that don't care. You're playing chicken with somebody that wants to crash, right? So you're never going to win a game of chicken with somebody that wants to crash, okay? And so your expectation is that you also want to crash, that you want as much pain as possible because you're so mad that Donald Trump won, and you're so mad, and you need those feelings validated, and so you want this to go on forever. Okay, I just don't know what to tell you because that isn't real. And so from my perspective,
well, the argument on the other side isn't that you want things to be fucked; is that you need people to realize how bad the Republicans are, so that they vote accordingly, right?
Put this out this morning. I think the Democrats potentially could lose the shutdown fight if they end up, doing a circular firing squad over it. But as of right now, they won. What will matter in the next year's midterms is that Republicans shit healthcare policies, the shit economy, and the tariffs, and the Democrats are going to run on that now. The Democrats did fight like Republicans this time. We hear that a lot, where it's like, oh, the Democrats are weak, Republicans are. This is a longer shutdown than any Tea Party shutdown. This was longer than any. Remember how crazy the Democrats acted like the crazy Tea Partiers were? These are insane terrorists. They're not in touch with the reality at all. They're extremists. They never had a shutdown that went this long. The idea that there was going to be the Obamacare subsidies are going to come back is wrong. The idea should have always been people's healthcare is going to go up. That sucks, and the Democrats need to fight against it, and that's kind of where we stand. So that's where I'm at on it.
I agree with that. Look, I am a squish. I'm like an institutionalist.
We're going to get to that.
I mean, Tim, I like the filibuster. That's where I am. Okay.
So 25% of the audience just signed off. Stick around. We have other takes that are coming out like better.
I just want people to have perspective on what the Senate Democrats did here. They did not squish out like me. The blame for the shutdown goes all around, and I would put a lot of blame on Donald Trump for being the first president who didn't give a damn during a shutdown and didn't do anything to help end it. But it is true.
Like he really didn't. I don't think I heard him talk about it much, even at all. It was kind of weird. It was like he truly has no idea. He's so disconnected. I feel like he barely did anything. He was just redesigning the White House. He's just like, whatever. Yeah, that's crazy.
That the Senate Democrats refused to sign off on essentially a clean continuing resolution. That was a big step for them. That was like, they really went to the mat to fight for this. Yeah. Okay. They pushed it to the point where they got this issue front and center. They're going to come back to it. I want to point out one thing about the Democrats who crossed the line, the 8 who voted for this. Tim, I was just looking at the list of senators who are up in 2026. 2 of the senators of those 8 who crossed the line are up in 2026, and they're retiring. That's it. So nobody who's running for re-election. So this was...
I saw that, yeah. Yeah, I saw, because Pisco tweeted yesterday, he was like, can't wait to primary some of these guys. And it's like, okay.
What I think, you tell me if I'm crazy, this is a conspiracy theory. When you get exactly enough votes to pass the thing and no more, and when none of those people are up, and when like the 2 senators are in Virginia, one of them who's up in 2026 doesn't vote for this deal, the other one does. All of that says to me that there were other Democrats in the Senate who would have voted for this, but who did not. They wanted to cover their left flank by not voting for it. What do you think?
I know for sure that's true. It's not a conspiracy theory. I know for sure it's true because I've heard from some that are in that boat. So that's just where we're at. I understand. And here's where I'm at.
I keep hearing these different things about Schumer. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to like Schumer or hate Schumer. I've seen people say that Schumer was weak behind the scenes, but I also read, I'll be honest, a headline. I didn't read the whole thing yesterday, but it was like the headline of the first few sentences that Schumer was the only reason why this went as long as it did, because he was like behind the lines, like super getting everybody to like make sure that they didn't vote to reopen quicker. So I don't know what the truth is of that, but
I'm a podcaster now, so I get to just say what I really think, which is that like this is just the Republicans were never going to fold, and the Democrats got all they're going to get out of this politically, and so one battle after another can move on to win the next.
Destiny. So the ideal primary is going to be against them when either we need to win the presidency or during a midterm with the Dem president lose. What? No one is primarying anybody because of a shutdown vote 4 years from now. No, the American memory for politics is not even close to that long.
Next battle. If I was a strategist still, I would tell my Democratic candidates to rage about this and be mad. It's cynical. I admit that it's cynical. So I understand why they're doing it. People are fucking pissed, and you want to demonstrate that you're fighting for them. I totally...
That's what I'm saying. It's retarded. Wait, what's retarded?
Totally get it. I think that when it comes to the actual votes, there's this question about whether the type of fighting you're doing is strategically smart.
To say you're going to primary them. Oh, well, I think Pisco just did. I think Pisco thought that some of the people that voted against this are up for a re-election in a year. I think that's what he thought.
Whether it's just fulfilling the emotional needs of your supporters. and I said this about the New Jersey and Virginia governor's races, where I was like, I love Abigail and Mikey. They're not fulfilling my emotional needs as a supporter of them right now, by the way in which they're fighting. But by the way, they fought and they won by 13 and 14 and 15 points. So I think it's important to have some perspective on that. Sometimes there's strategically smart fighting that is happening, and that is not just food fight, temper tantrum, and do any. The
media needs to have their 2 to 3 days of talking about this, and then the Dems need to refocus the conversation on Trump's illegal shit. Yeah, sure, but the only failure I would say still is that there should have been more coordinated messaging. It's just so hard for people to understand this. There should have been more coordinated messaging. I feel like AOC spoke truth to this when she talked about all of the Biden, Kamala, Obama, Pelosi behind the scenes talk a long time ago. I feel like she was doing an Instagram live or something, or a TikTok live. I don't remember. She was on some stream, and I think she was saying as much that like we should support whoever, but like it can't be that there are leaks coming out and everybody seems like they're backstabbing. Like there has to be some kind of coordinated party thing, Ex Machina was so mid and overrated. What?
Anything that you need possible to make people feel better. And I literally was texting with a friend this morning who like replied to my tweet, texted me. He was like, "You're wrong. I'm mad." And I'm like, "Yeah, I get it. I get that you're mad. That's cool. I get it. Be mad. There's a lot to be fucking mad about. I'm mad. I just mean that like there was not a magical world in which they were fighting so hard that Mike Johnson would have said, you know what? The scales have fallen from my eyes. I want to extend the Obamacare subsidies for people. That was not going to happen, or he wouldn't have been the speaker anymore. So anyway, I think that that just might be one way to. If you're mad, I hear you. I'm mad too. I want to validate your feelings.
Right.
But there's just ways.
Top right video. Oh.
To be mad.
The problem with it's very hard to fairly evaluate Ex Machina, in my opinion. What is it? Is this guy's Oscar something? Because this guy is just Oscar Isaac. This guy's just an amazing actor. Okay? And if you put him in anything, it's going to be good. I love this guy. He's just a great actor. I don't know why. He's just so good. Black screen? What? Because I'm pointing at Denzel Washington? You are pretending that? I'm sorry. Apparently there's HDR. Wait. HDR protection. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
And for all
strategic.
the people who are like mad, like it's not over. It's not over. Stay in the fight. Stay in the fight. It's going to be a long fight, especially if you're a young person. Like you're mad you didn't get what you want right now. Guess what? Things take a long time. Civil rights took a long time. Medicare took a long time, right? This is going to take a long time.
All right, yo, where was I going to this weekend where I was wearing my perfect jean? I was so happy to be trying out the new Perfect Dad jean that I have. You know, it's as I've mentioned to y'all before, it's my baby step away from, you know, the skinny jeans that are such a part of my gay identity. I can't do the big pants.
Do you think that a stronger leader would have been able to keep the party in line on the budget vote, or would anybody have failed in Schumer's position? It's not just leadership, it's infrastructure. You have to have people that you're communicating with in media, in alternative media, and then your House. I think Jeffries and Schumer seem to be generally on the same page, but it's just a lot of different moving pieces that you have to have the reins on. It's not just like your messaging is strong. It's that you have like you're coordinating with a ton of people. That's what the Republicans do.
The kids are wearing, but something a little bit more on trend. That's also comfy. You can wear to the kids' soccer match. You know, when you're sort of owning your dad vibes. The new Perfect jean I tried out is great for that, and there are a bunch of other options too. And you're probably looking for new jeans as well as you deal with the family drama this fall, football brain melt. You know, you want something with a little extra space, a little extra coziness.
Do you really think Trump would never have been able to convince the GOP to kill the filibuster to pass the CR? Hard to believe the GOP would not cave at some point to Dear Leader. Well, the problem is Dear Leader's political aura is going to be running out because he's going to be too old to run for re-election, I think. But I really don't think the Republicans want to let go of the filibuster because it's going to be rough times for them. They know it's going to be rough times coming up. So I'm not sure. But McConnell was very strategic. I keep forgetting the Senate guy is it Thune? Who the fuck is why don't I hear anything about this guy? Senate Majority Leader. It's Thune, right? Okay. This guy sounds like a lightning user. Do I even see this guy talk? I must. I feel like I recognize the face. I feel like this guy's not anywhere near as visible as McConnell was. I don't know if there's a reason for that. I feel like I see that Mike Johnson guy so much more, but... Not because it's illegal to run again, but because he's getting too old. If Trump was 10 years younger, he would 1 trillion% run again. There's no doubt about it. And the Republicans would support him, so... So Schumer failed to build this infrastructure after 10 years in MAGA world. He's literally boomering everything up. Well, I mean, everybody failed. The Obama administration failed. The Clintons, nobody has built the sycophantic apparatus that can match the Republicans. Well, I think nobody. I guess it's only one other party. But the Democrats just didn't play that same game, which might honestly be for the benefit of all of us because at least the country is somewhat functional. Who knows what we'd look like if they would have played the same game. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? This guy's my favorite streamer.
The Democrat, this is I think it is a unique Democrat problem. Now, when a Republican does something bad, here's the big difference, right? It's not that Republicans don't do anything bad, but when a Republican does something bad, everybody generally says, oh, okay, that's really bad. But the problem is that Democrats look to try to, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't matter that much. Who cares? And I think that has radicalized a lot of people. And
I think this level of delusion probably means you need medication or something. Like this has to be psychosis. Like he has to be breaking from reality to believe this.
View that, and we can contrast this now with, do you remember whenever they had all those text message leaks and it was all those young Republican people talking about how much they liked Hitler? And nobody really cared about that anymore. And the reason why, it's because left-wing people have established basically a standard, and now right-wing people are living up to it.
He's playing into, I don't know if he's intentionally doing it, or it's impossible for me to tell. I have no theory of mind for degenerates like this. I just can't imagine how far gone you have to be, or if you're just a political cell. I'd almost respect it more if it was an ideological thing, because at least then you're not as stupid. But like, we talked about Hillary's emails for a year. We still talk about Hillary's emails every now and then. The Signal leaks, which were 100% illegal, by the way, that did one person from the DOD get fired for that ultimately? Maybe. Like a lower level. Like, we talked about it for like 2 weeks and then it was done. to pretend that Democrats are the ones setting the standards on this is just so ridiculous.
So you have all these conservatives that are saying this crazy stuff.
Also, he's doing the thing again. Remember, whenever liberals are tasked with governance, they have to forgive and turn the other cheek and move on and heal the country. But Republicans, when they talk about bad things that Democrats do, they never, ever say. You will only hear this when liberals are talking to each other. You will never hear a conservative say, we don't want to sink to their level. Ever. You will never hear a conservative say that. Is only on the left will you hear that phrase. We don't want to sink to their level, guys. The conservatives say they did it first, so we got to go harder.
And there's never a point of moral authority that, any liberal can have when you're the one justifying, shutting down a college, or you're the one justifying being violent to an officer, or you're the one justifying, destroying property, somebody's car, something like that. They all got blacklisted and fired from their jobs. Yes, but I understand that structurally, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happened to them. What matters is how the public perceives it. And I think that this is continuing to become the case. I think that any conservative at this point should totally stop purity testing, because left-wing people don't purity test themselves.
Like, how delusional do you have to be? It's got to be the cockroaches crawled into his brain. Can he hear out of both of his ears? There might be a hole there where one got in.
And if you allow other people to create the optics for you, all you're doing is you're allowing your enemy to define how you lose.
And it's crazy too, because see, again, they have he's got a really good understanding of how it works. It's just that his side is the one that's doing it, but he's blind to that somehow.
And
well, it's not, I need to stop saying somehow. Oh, the next uncomfortable question I need to start pushing onto people. I didn't do it on Tom. I think I was a lot more aggressive on the Tom debate than I am normally, which I'll start being. But the next aggressive question I need to start pushing is, what do you consume for media? Because Asmongold is a slave to whatever Elon shoves down his throat. All Asmongold is reading is whatever comes across his Twitter feed. I think you can see him do it on his streams. I think he just scrolls through his Twitter feed. This is not critical media consumption.
All you're doing is you're allowing your enemy to define how you lose. And basically, you can see how they had no problem voting for Jay Jones, right? This is a guy that fantasized about killing, his political opponent's children. Well, if you're going to vote for that person and you're not going to have people withdraw their nominations from them, well, then I don't want to hear from you about how bad it is that somebody said something bad in a group chat.
Good one. Based king. New via CNN. The United Kingdom is no longer sharing intelligence with the U.S. about suspected drug trafficking vessels in the Caribbean because it doesn't want to be complicit in U.S. military strikes and blue attacks are illegal. Uh-oh. Is this the first time ever a Five Eyes partner has broken intelligence sharing with us? Is that... And publicly, too. Well. Thoughts on Jennifer Lawrence calling Kourtney Kardashian more annoying than ever? I don't know anything about either of these people. Why the fuck would I care? Also, wait, why do we care about Sydney Sweeney? Well, I don't even know who this person actually is. Apparently she had a movie come out and it busted, but who was she in movies, or I know the whole Gene Skimmers, but what was she known for before? Is there a movie I've seen with her in it and I just don't remember? Euphoria. Oh, the TV show? Okay. Oh, she was the one girl in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood too. Okay. All right, I guess. Okay. I've never seen Euphoria before. I don't know if I've seen any of these other movies. Spiders 3D. What the fuck is this? Sounds like a movie I need to see the trailer for. Okay. Oh, my Tom Talk is up. You guys can watch that while I'm
gonna get a
Prototype.
I'm gonna get... Can you guess the IMDb rating of that movie? 1.8. Spiders 3D IMDb. 3.4. Fuck. Under Democrats. The last balanced budget we had was under a Democrat. Every time a Democrat comes into office, it's on the... I get so frustrated sometimes. I feel like I have a lot of facts. I got a lot of facts! And then I get hit up with the hypotheticals. Happened under the Democrats. It's like, it is huge tax cuts. He spent a ton. Predictable. Okay. This on maybe the first episode we did. Like everything that Trump has done is like very predictable. Like I think that from the first term, it was obvious that he's a crazy spender. He spent a ton when he came into office after Obama. He doesn't care about balancing the budget. He did his huge tax cuts in his first term. He's made them permanent in his second term. He's not capable of leading the country. There's a whole bunch of reasons to expect what's happening now because of what happened in the first term. And then meanwhile, on the other side, again, I keep hearing like socialism and communism are going to happen under the Democrats. It's like 98% of all jobs made in the past like 50 years have come under Democrats. The last balanced budget we had was under a Democrat. Every time a Democrat comes into office, it's on the back of like a Republican-led disaster. And it's like, I don't understand how we are voting in Republicans to give them another chance and then they destroy everything again, like they've already done, because we're too afraid of electing Democrats because we're worried about them doing a thing that they haven't done and don't really show any inclination of doing. It's really hard for me to understand.
We might have different things that we worry about. So I don't need them to usher in socialism in name. What I need them to do for them to be a not only moral hazard, but a literal physical hazard for the United States is to deficit spend. So I just rank order the parties by how much they're going to deficit spend.
In that case, the Democrats still easily win.
Yes.
The Republicans deficit spend like crazy.
More?
No. The
well,
Republicans
they want to add more to the big, beautiful bill. If they were saying government is shut down until we balance the budget, I'd be on team Democrat. But they're not. They're saying just add these things back into the bill. That is, again, this is not I'm going to bat for Republicans. This is like what the Republicans are doing is completely unacceptable and will drive us off a cliff. And then the Democrats are like, but wait, let's go faster. That's the part where I'm like,
no,
okay.
it was because the Republicans did a whole bunch of like tax cuts, increase for funding for ICE, and a whole bunch of other stuff like this. And they cut the way they balanced it was by cutting.
They haven't balanced it.
Foods. Well, the way that they make this kind of work and the way that they didn't, it doesn't work, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we see this very different.
But the way that they've balanced anything, when I say balanced, the way that they brought back a little bit of the budget is by cutting things like SNAP and Medicaid.
Yeah, but I couldn't fucking care about bringing it back a little. Like it's deeply problematic. What the Republicans are putting forward is within 10 years, you go off a cliff.
Sure.
So now I'm just saying you've got the Democrats going, no, we can do it in 8. And so
but
now,
all the big beautiful bills are Republican bill.
Yeah, what the fuck? So I think you think I am either identifying as a Republican or I'm going to bat.
No. I'm not thinking that. You're saying that the Democrats are worse because they want to reinstate SNAP and Medicaid to bring back the old requirements.
Yes.
But it's like those were things that Americans already had expected. And then the Republicans are cutting them to give dumb tax cuts and other like bad spending measures. But you're saying since the Democrats want to add these things back, they're worse, but the Democrats would have never passed a thing that looked like the Big Beautiful Bill.
So
the bill that the Democrats would have passed would have been fiscally better than the Big Beautiful Bill.
Okay.
Right?
If I'm hearing what you're saying, which is, I think, if we had just elected the Democrats and not the Republicans, then we would be in a better fiscal place. They would be closer to a balanced budget.
Easier,
okay.
yeah.
Given their movements now, I have no reason to believe that that's true.
The easiest reason why I'm 100% correct is because they wouldn't have solidified the Trump tax cuts, which have been one of the biggest things that have pushed us more into debt, is having these huge tax cuts, reducing your income without decreasing your spending.
True. Okay. My takeaway on that is when I look at Mamdani, that feels to me like that's where the energy is in the party, which is way farther left. It's way more give things for free. It's way more tax.
Wait, but why? He's just one mayor.
Yeah. But if you think about, so my base assumption is that he's representative of where the party is going to go. If
Why?
you believe he's just a random guy,
But he's literally just the mayor of New York City.
But look at how much energy he gets, how many people in the party are talking about him. Look at the
They're
coverage.
not. The
that he
coverage is
gets.
big, and there's people online talking about it. But he's not that. The reason why, so people are really critical of Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer for not endorsing him. The reason why is because he's not actually that popular writ large with the Democratic Party. So they
Listen,
writ
it's entirely
large.
possible that the rumors aren't true, and that part of why Chuck Schumer is holding this up is he's worried about getting primaried by AOC. Maybe.
He's
Or
probably holding it up because he wants SNAP and Medicaid back for Americans and not just more deficit spending and Republicans that refuse to do anything.
well, the
in
deficit
office.
spending, that's where your argument weakens, because they're willing to increase the deficit. They are saying, I care more that people get these things than I care about the deficit. That one thing is where my brain switches on either party. The second a party says, I'm willing to deficit spend, what they're actually saying is, I'm willing to increase the wealth inequality. I'm willing to make the rich richer and the poor poor. Deficit spending is that is it mechanistically.
Okay, let me try this. I'm curious how you feel about this,
Yep.
okay? You and I are in LA,
Yep.
okay? And we have $1,000 and we want to take a road trip to Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And on the road trip to Vegas, I want to be able to buy my 12-pack of I can't believe I spin these analogies out of thin air, okay? I take 10 Vyvanse on these and the analogies just come out. This is such a good analogy. Let me try this. I'm curious how you feel about this,
Yep.
okay? You and I are in LA,
Yep.
okay? And we have $1,000 and we want to take a road trip to Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And on the road trip to Vegas, I want to be able to buy my 12-pack of Red Bull, okay? This is my Red Bull. We've guaranteed this. Let's say that at some point you bring 2 more friends, okay? So we have a $1,000 budget. We're going to Vegas. And I want my Red Bull.
Yep.
And let's say that you're like, actually, I want to take a road trip to Portland. I'm like, Portland? That's going to cost like $3,000. And you're like, yeah, we're going to do the Portland thing. And also, you don't get any Red Bull. And eventually I'm like, okay, hold on. You got all your friends voting against me. All right. We can go to Portland if you want. But I'm keeping my Red Bull.
Yeah.
In that situation where you've increased the cost of our trip from $1,000 to $3,000, and then you've cut my $20 Red Bull, for me to say, well, I at least want my Red Bull, for you to go, oh, so you want to spend $3,020. You're even worse? Well, that's not true because I wanted to go to Vegas the whole time.
Yep.
For the Democrats would have never solidified those tax cuts, which is which even under Biden, it was the interest and the additional, the lack of revenue collected that was even pushing a lot of deficit spending under Biden. And now to have those solidified, they would have never been solidified under the Democrats. The budget would have been closer to balanced. It was coming closer to being balanced under Obama and Biden than it was under Trump, who was massively deficit spending more than For no Biden, reason. or, I'm sorry, more than Obama at the end of his term, even though Trump came in under a good economy. What? Hello? Than it was under Trump, who was massively deficit spending more than Biden, or I'm sorry, more than Obama at the end of his term, even though Trump came in under a good economy. I just don't understand how we ever look at Democrats and go, they're worse because they want to fight for SNAP and Medicaid, when it's the Republican budget that was so much more dumbly done. That's just crazy to me.
Okay, fair. But I will fair in that you're a smart person. You're looking at it, you have a frame of reference. You sound like you're missing a key point from where I'm sitting.
Okay.
And that key point is I don't have to look at hypotheticals. I just need to ask, we're in the situation that we're in and how are they behaving? So your example is great in terms of I totally get the emotion of like, hold on a second. Now the one thing I said I wanted, I'm not even going to get, and we're driving somewhere else. What is happening? And so I am still going to get my thing, and I don't care if it costs more money. And so what I'm saying is, even if I can't get you to agree that I think that that analogy is kind to the point of being nonsensical, but even if I can't get you to agree to that, that's the surface. What I am literally kept awake by is the fact that the entire nation is arguing up here what my wife and I call never talk about the tea. So the biggest argument I've ever been in with my wife was over a cup of tea. And after 2 hours of screaming at each other, almost ruining an entire vacation, I was like, there's no way I'm this mad about a cup of tea. So what am I actually mad about? Then I got into the building blocks of what was actually going on. We started talking about that, which had everything to do with insecurities. And all of a sudden we were able to resolve the issue. What I'm saying is all the stuff that manifests up here at we've got to give this to that person and I want my Red Bull is everybody needs to get on board with. It is the government has a moral obligation to balance the budget. So I have all of these base assumptions in my brain that paint my worldview. One of them is when you look back in history, every time, minus Japan, every time a country has spent more than 18 months at over 130% debt to GDP.
I didn't call him out on this, but anytime you get somebody using these really particular number percentage, okay, what?
They've gone into open violence. So revolution, civil war, or just default, which leaves people starving in the streets. So it's happened every time except once, again, Japan being the only exception. And we're at 122%. And growing rapidly. We add $1 trillion to the budget. So you can look at a spreadsheet and it really is, it's somewhere between 7 and 10 years from now, barring some miracle, we cross that 130% mark. And given that we are already at each other's throats, this all breaks. So I'm just any step in that direction, And I'm just like, this is crazy.
Sure, I can kind of understand what you're saying. So in my analogy, right? Well, it's $3,000. It's a lot for that trip, but like $20, that's even more money.
And by the way, I'm screaming at why the fuck? What are we? How are we already doing a $3,000 trip?
Sure, I understand. I guess my question then is, do you acknowledge, or would you say then that had Kamala been elected, if there was a Democrat Congress, we would have been closer to a balanced budget than we got under the one big beautiful bill?
It is a hypothetical rerun that I have a natural inclination to say no.
Even
that
though
I
all
don't
the
believe
history
that.
disagrees, all the history points to
I'll
Democrats.
walk you through the beats because, dude, honestly, I'll give a 30-second pitch about why I don't care Republican or Democrat.
Okay.
I really believe this country is going to default on its debt, and that will end America for 100 years. In terms of anything that people think of as America being important on the world stage, having a stable economy, being a place where people are safe, that goes away for 100 years. It's just the normal cycle of this stuff. Even China had their 100 years of humiliation. Look at what happened to Argentina. Defaults, uninvestable. And if it's some less,
I don't
think driving
a single thing you've
going
said.
to be some untold number of people that get murdered in the streets. It just plays out over and over and over.
I don't disagree with a single thing you've said so far.
Perfect. So now it's like, okay, that seems, but he's when some
Or
we're that it's just a disqualifying statement. Now,
what do you think? Because Trump has said so many more things and more.
We're never going to agree on that.
Well, no, but there are some things that you would just be objectively, factually incorrect on. So, for instance, if you're worried about socialism, how do you feel about the fact that Trump now, the United States is getting shares, the United States government is getting shares in like Intel or U.S. Steel, Nippon Steel? Like that's like that's like an AOC Bernie Sanders wet dream. Oh, the government has like shares, voting shares or whatever. in these
Capital
companies.
letters moronic.
Yeah, but a Democrat would have never done that. So this came from Trump, right? And then when we look at things in terms of like catastrophic impact on the economy, nothing that Kamala said, and Democrats say a lot of dumb things, is the equivalent to the tariff regime that we have right now. That is continuing to, our currency devalued 10% over the past year. Our trade
The
relations.
tariff thing is very complicated because you have to devalue the dollar. There is no way out of this without devaluing the dollar.
Now, it's interesting he says this, and I think I call him out briefly. I could have leaned in harder, but Thomas wanted to talk to me multiple times, so I won't. But like, he just said a whole thing about how like inflation is like the worst possible thing in the universe. But then he talks about devaluing the dollar. It's like, wait a second.
You have to generate more tax revenue. Tariffs are a tax. Look, Trump is bordering on indefensible. So you're
It's not. Even what you just said doesn't make sense, because if you're trying to generate more tax with a tariff, why can't you just raise income taxes? Wouldn't that be so much easier? And it wouldn't hurt our trade relations with the rest of the world? Or because bumping up your income tax by a few points in every bracket is going to raise you hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. It's the easiest way to raise a ton of money. But the import tax is damaging. It's destroying our relationship with so many other countries around the world, and it's hurting our domestic economy, and it's having disproportionate impacts on the people that probably need the money the most.
I think this is going to have to play out before we know if it's helping us on an international stage or hurting us. I honestly don't know.
Okay, we've got 0 deals in however many days. We said we would have 90 deals in 90 days. We have none so far.
Well, that's not true. We do have deals.
We don't. Trade deals? Real trade deals? No. We've got some truths.
Define real.
A trade deal would be like a market-wide deal that dictates different terms across the different sectors of your economy. Like these are usually hundreds of pages long. That it's not like we'll tariff you 10% and you tariff us 10%. Because there's like markets are sophisticated things depending on how you run it. Like let's say that I buy milk from you and I also sell milk to you, and you're like, okay, cool. And in our economy, we also have a thing where if you produce milk, you pay 0% taxes. Okay, there's a whole. We did the senility thing. I will fight on this. I don't care. I will fight on this with everybody. I think Trump is more senile than Biden. What was it? It wasn't senile. I think it was near the end.
Information on the Russia hoax. To you, not a hoax. Russia really was involved. That was all above board.
1,000,000%, of course.
Okay, so then.
But I've read all the underlying documents.
Yeah,
I've read the Mueller
very fair.
report. I've read it's all. Not only is it true, it's worse than most people
So
even.
your map is Democrats honorable, Republicans, Trump especially, unhinged liars who will do whatever to amass more power.
100%. Yeah.
Not my read in the slightest.
Okay.
So
and I'll just
you
say
have-
that a year
hold
ago
on.
I made a bunch of predictions.
Let
I
me
feel like,
ask.
yeah, go ahead.
Was Biden cognitively capable of being president?
I think absolutely. I never saw any evidence that he wasn't.
Then we look at the same thing and we see something different.
Sure.
And
If
that
I were to point to an example, if I were to ask you, did Biden need his executive orders explained to him when they were brought? You couldn't find a single video of that happening.
I have
right?
to imagine Biden wouldn't be able to take his own medication without somebody explaining it.
Sure, you can say that. But the difference is that Trump has already lied about his medical history. Do you acknowledge that? That his doctor has lied as well?
I don't know, but would not be
He has
surprised.
the chronic venous issue.
Would
that
not be
Okay, so
surprised.
he lied about his medical history. Biden never lied about his medical history that we can see.
Then he doesn't know it or something. The man had dementia, whether it was Alzheimer's or not, I don't know. But like,
You can say that, but you have no evidence for that.
yes, I do.
What?
I
Because of the way he
trust
spoke?
my eyes because of the fact that inside of their own government in administration, they had a group that referred to themselves as the Politburo, which, as you well know, is the group in a communist country that runs the country. So to me, and again, this is what are my sensitivities versus what are yours? I am totally freaked out by communism, socialism.
Okay,
for
so let's get
reasons.
away from the random reports of politics. How did that come out in a policy manner? what is our external evidence
It
of
is
like?
my map of the situation that you did not, for some number of years or some percentage of the time, that Biden was not actively the one running the country.
Because I don't have any evidence of that. Whereas
Well,
today, I can
so-
say, so like, for instance, here's the thing. We just saw Trump admit that he had no idea, I guess, that he pardoned the Binance guy or whatever.
He didn't say he didn't know that he pardoned him. He said he didn't know who he was.
So who pardoned him?
This guy's telling me who I trust. You should pardon this guy because this is all bullshit. This is Biden going after these guys. Yeah, Biden going after anybody in crypto. Cool.
So what you've just described is there's somebody else running the government besides Trump.
No,
And
I
there's
think look, even as a CEO, it's not that you're not running the company. It's that you trust certain people to have a sense of like what's going on. They're going to bring it to you, get you to weigh in. But I'm saying if they're not bringing it to him, if they're not getting him to weigh in, that he's just completely checked out because he can hardly talk and hold a thought in his head, that's a very different thing than you're running an entire country. You've got all these international
So who is
deals.
telling Trump who to pardon?
I don't know who that person
That's supposed to be the power exclusively granted to the president.
Yeah, so they bring it to him. They make the argument. And he says,
Who's
"Yeah,
they?
I'm here for it." Whoever the person was that came to him.
Who is that?
But if
It doesn't bother you, don't even know who that
hold on.
is?
It's a knowable name, right?
No, it's not. We don't know
Okay,
who's
so you're
giving these
saying
things.
they're gonna like keep that under shroud.
I'm saying that
and
the
not-
weird stuff that you're worried about under Biden, that we have no evidence of it ever happening, we see it happening right now on TV with Trump. But for some reason, you're not perceiving that. Trump is
It's not
pardoning
that I'm
people. He
not
doesn't know anything about them, and he can't answer questions about them. There are politicians being killed in this country. It happened to the 2 Minnesota lawmakers. He didn't know anything about it sometimes, even though he did 6 months earlier. He told Walls, I'm not calling that guy. He's a yeah.
that you give such a pass to Biden in a way that I cannot reconcile.
Because I'm trying to tell me what is the evidence of Biden being senile that doesn't involve him being a shitty debater.
Put the clips on. There are. He literally can't speak at times.
So besides him being a bad speaker,
No. It's not being a bad speaker. That is cognitive decline.
so you have no examples besides him being. If we were to
This
compare,
is so weird.
Well, here, I'm
I
curious. If we were to
watched for
compare
4
Biden's
years.
State of the Union to Trump's State of the Union, which one do you think sounded more coherent?
I mean, with Trump for sure, far and
Okay,
away.
absolutely
a
not. I totally
thousandfold.
disagree. Trump not only so for instance, Biden was able to deliver his State of the Union while I think Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene were standing up and screaming at him in Congress. He had a comeback for him and he continued on. When Trump had any people making noise, Mike Johnson started saying he was going to throw people out of Congress because he couldn't deal with it. Trump repeats the same 5 talking points over and over again, right? Well, the difference is like you can say, well, just look and see, and I can give you example after example. Like, how many illegal immigrants came into this country? It started at 10 million under Biden, then it was 15, 20. The last I heard from Trump, it was 25 million came in. I don't know what the actual number is. I see that he's lied about his health. That seems to be the case. He just got an MRI recently. We don't know what it was for. They're not releasing the evidence there.
Let's go
Yeah,
one
sorry.
by one because wall of facts,
Sure,
which
it's not cool,
admittedly
okay.
is a very impressive technique that you use.
Sure.
But if you take them one by one, should we have opened the border?
What is that? Should we have opened the border?
Yeah, just open borders, let people in.
No, but we never had open borders.
Really?
Correct.
So should we have treated the borders the way that we did? Like you just hung up on the word open?
Well, yeah, because open implies some like
Did we do a good thing over Biden's term in terms of it positively impacting America with the borders?
we could have had better border enforcement. I think.
Okay, look, hold on. I remember my training, okay? Because he tries to pull me away from this. He tries to.
There were a lot-
He got me. He yanked me a little bit. But
Other issues going on in the country at the time.
Are you worried that I'm like going to got you there? I'm trying to build a mental model of what you believe.
Well, the conversation is: how do we think who is senile versus the other person?
Yeah, but
okay, we brought it back.
remember, so you and I are probably involved in a very different conversation right now. So
I'm just thinking in terms of senility, in terms of mental faculty.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at mental faculty, so one at a time. So the very first thing, I've never seen somebody have to explain an executive order to Biden. Every single one that Trump signs is explained to him, and oftentimes it looks like he doesn't even know what he's like. Oh, this sounds like a good idea, and then he signs.
Okay, so on that, what I see is somebody who we've had all these policy discussions. I know what they're going to end up being. When you present them to me, just remind me which one this is. And then, yep, cool, got it. This is not somebody who's like, I have no idea what's going on and I'm befuddled.
Okay.
Like that is, now that may be your read, but that definitely is not my read. Like that seems so like blasé. Yeah, got it. Like there's so many things, so many moving parts.
So what are the moving? Okay, so then the second thing, Trump said he was going to Russia instead of Alaska to go and talk to Putin. What are the gaps for Biden here in terms of mixing up even like the places he's visiting?
Does that, like if he said I'm going to Azerbaijan to meet with Putin, that might be a little bit weird. But if you say the country name of the person, the number of times I see people point out gaffes that Trump made that I'm like, God damn, I could see myself doing the same thing. And I'm not in cognitive decline. So that one like just doesn't feel like a big gotcha. Like
Tries to argue with Zelensky, you got invaded in 2015 instead of 2014. I don't know why he tried to argue that point.
yeah, but now you're doing the thing my wife does where you think you're average and everybody else is dumb. Like your mind remembers facts in a way that the average person just is never going
Trump shouldn't
to
be the
remember
average
facts.
person. He's the president
I
of
get
the
it, but he's
United
going to be
States.
good at different things. So he obviously knows how to aggregate people around him to get into power. He was, should have been an invisible real estate developer in New York that nobody ever knows about, but has been able to make himself absolutely the most famous person on planet Earth. You can hate that all you want, but it is
I don't hate
certainly
it.
a
So I
skill set.
acknowledge you won a popularity contest. I got that. Okay.
Cool. So unfortunately, as you said at the beginning of the interview, that's really what today is about. We
Sure.
live in that age. This
But
is
you
a
could be
populist
senile and be
moment.
popular.
I think it is important for each of us to understand that we look at the same thing and we walk away with a different read on it. And then we can explain why we think that. Like I have tremendous fears fears of the distortions that happen on the pathology that happens on the left. I'm far more afraid of that. And when I look at Trump, even though I am afraid of the pathology on the right, I don't see Trump as having enough of the amplitude of those types of things, having looked as closely as I've looked at Hitler specifically. I just do not see the amplitude. I get where people see like there are similarities here, but the amplitude is just so far off from me. So then I'm like, I don't really have big concerns there. Now, I totally get it. One, I know I could be wrong, and so I don't overtrust myself, and I'm not screaming to the world, hey, this guy's amazing. We got to keep him in power. That is not my take. But that, like, if anybody's just trying to understand me, not necessarily convince me, but understand me, it's like over here on the left, because I've spent so much time reading about how we end up over here trying to do these things out of what I will say is resentment, not a desire to help the poor, but resentment. I understand the mechanisms of how the economy breaks when you do those things. So I'm looking at it going, this is never going to work. And so even if we all say, we can ignore Tom when he says something about Trump, but let's listen over here. And maybe we say, we can, Destiny, when he sounds an alarm on the right, you need to listen. He is super attuned. He's got some blind spots to people on the left just because maybe he gets it more, whatever. Hey, I'm fine with that. I'm not expecting people to just listen and do what I say.
I understand where you're coming from. I guess my thing is that I've heard the klaxon sounding about socialism and communism for 30 years for the Democrats, and I've yet to ever see like even a step really in that direction.
Okay,
and then
let's address
Trump,
that.
Yeah, we've like so far in that I'm like, holy shit, like there's so much.
This is really enlightening. Okay. So let me tell you what that sounds like from my perspective.
Okay.
I'm looking at it and I'm like, over the last 40 years, we have gone so far with left policies, lunatic left policies, unfortunately, both from the right and the left, but they've both been running big government, big spending, deficits are fine.
Why are these left instead of, these are just fiscal things? It depends on where you're spending it, whether it's left or right.
I'm going with traditional definitions.
Even traditionally, so like Republicans used to be way more hawkish, right? So the big spending there is going to be Republican.
I would define small government by Republican. Like Republicans want small government.
I don't like this weird no true Scotsman thing that gets played here. I don't know if I use that phrase or not, but it's weird when we definitionally, I actually should have backed up and just said that you've defined away the parties as being good and bad. So left is more spending and you think more spending is bad. So Democrats are always bad and Republicans are only bad when they act like Democrats. That is a really weird...
Government to me means that there are just fewer costs.
What about Iraq and Afghanistan?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Sure.
The last 40 years, remember, I'm not a Republican.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I'm just saying when I look at these two, they have both become completely irresponsible.
Sure. I'm saying
because you gave me a very specific thing that you're saying, and I'm trying to explain how it sounds to me.
Okay, sure.
And what I'm saying is you say we haven't moved any to the left, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? In the same way that when I go, what do you mean this is not crazy? Like taking the National Guard into LA, what's the problem, bro? And you're like, are you fucking out of your mind? Like that seems so obvious to you. You're like, can I even take this person seriously if they don't see this? That's how I feel about people who are not afraid of what's happening on the left.
Wait, real quick. I know, it's a real thing, okay?
Go ahead.
I'm not disagreeing with you that it's bad. I just feel like we're having a weird, almost no true Scotsmanish fallacy where we're saying that like, here are bad left-wing things and one is big government spending. And I'm saying big government spending isn't always a left-wing thing. Pursuing a lot of wars, you could argue is a right-wing thing, depending on what you're looking at. But the government can spend a lot of money. It doesn't necessarily make it a left-wing thing. If we're going to define it that way, then we've almost like, through definitions, just won our arguments. And then,
Oh, good job. Never mind. I do say that. Nice.
both parties are basically left-wing party. Or actually, the Republicans are even more left-wing than the Democrats because they spend more than the Democrats.
I have a belief. Okay, if this ends up being wrong, then cool. I have a belief that the modern left, no matter what, they will keep funding entitlements, making them bigger. Because I believe that about the left, then I'm just like, yeah, this is never going to work. At least the right now pays lip service to trying to grow their way out of this. Now, the good or bad news is that is the only option. We collectively, left, right, everybody, center, everybody has let this get to the point where growth is the only option. Nothing else is going to work.
Okay.
So now we've got one guy who's at least paying lip service to it, who's at least trying some things. They're probably crazy and they probably won't work, but he's at least trying. And so for me, as one guy, I'm just like, I am far more comfortable with that than I am with the way that the left is approaching the situation, which is we've got to take care of everybody. We let the borders be wide open. And we want, when a horrific bill is passed, we're going to get our Red Bull no matter what. And I'm just like, yo, like I can't do it.
Okay. And the horrific bill was a Republican bill by a Republican Congress and a Republican president. And Republicans have been spending more than Democrats and lead the spending and have worse economies and cause contracting economies more than growing economies. And the last budget surplus we had was under a Democratic president. All the facts just seem to lay out like very clearly and cleanly.
The last time that the average person's wages grew were under Trump. He's at least trying to do something on the world stage to get us back where we are not literally just handing our future to China.
By making enemies of every country on the planet?
Yeah, dude, look, again, I'm not going to bat for Trump.
He's trying to make everybody like us. Yeah, but it's not. They'll hate us now.
When I run the experiment of there's a reason you're making sounds. And the reason you're making sounds is you're trying to convince me.
I am understanding one thing that's happening here, though, that I could have leaned in before. I'm sorry, I just connected two things. I complained about sometimes smart people have good heuristics and they use that as a substitution for actual fact gathering. He's using a lot of heuristics here, but it feels like he's not consulting the facts. And then when the heuristical or the heuristic, I don't know if the heuristical is a word, when your predictions about the world start to diverge from what actually happens, you have to adjust your pattern understanding of the world. And I feel like it's what keeps happening. He keeps saying, well, this is my mind and my theory, my this. But then I'm like, wait, but like, let's look at all the facts. It seems like that's not, all the facts are just not in your ballpark for anything.
Of a thing. And so then I go, what thing is he trying to convince me of? And I keep coming back to that the next time that a Republican and Democrat go head to head, I should be wise enough to vote for the Democrat. And for me, what I'm saying is that will come down entirely to the person. So I have no problem voting for a Democrat. My beef is that if I hear economically just disqualifying words come out of somebody's mouth, it's going to be a hard pass. And so we can all say that's a trigger that he hasn't. I think it's completely justified.
I actually 100% agree with you. But in that case, Trump has said so many more obviously disqualifying things than the Democrats.
That's interesting. I totally disagree.
Like, for instance, most Republicans right now don't even acknowledge that a tariff is an import tax. Trump still won't acknowledge that.
Most, as far as I can tell, the entire left tried to shut down crypto, which is
but that didn't happen.
Suicide. It did.
It literally did not. We had 4 years of Biden. It wasn't shut down.
I got sued by the U.S. government because I was involved in crypto.
And then the personal example that I don't have information about. Fuck, I hate it. I hate it when the personal examples come out and I don't know the information about it, and now it's weird to push on it.
Telling you right now, they were trying to chill that the fuck out. I've heard you make the same pitch about, yo, when you've got Elon Musk coming after you, like if it were anybody but me, this is the kind of thing that has a chilling effect. It's exactly what it does. It's like, what? Like crypto is a legitimate thing. In fact, it is the only thing that's going to give people a life raft out of the absolute horrific mess that we are in from the dollar. Like you have
right
to
now,
have
the president of the United States is running the largest crypto scam in all of human history.
Horrific.
Okay,
dude.
All right.
But if you're talking about where do you balance all this out? I've got one person over here that's telling me you just shouldn't even be able to do this. Let's make sure that we're doing CBDCs. And then you've got a guy over here that is fucking wild westing it, making it like just the easiest thing in the world to bribe, which is god awful. But at least he's trying to make America the innovation home for crypto, which when you know that growing is the only way to get out of this, somebody has to lengthen the runway on US treasuries. And the best idea that I've seen, it may not be the best, but the best idea I've seen is to create a one-to-one backed stablecoin with treasuries. And if you do that, you create instantly an international market for US treasuries. It will not stop the problem, but it will buy us more time for people to figure out what they're going to do.
Is there already an international market for US treasuries?
No, because people can't get, right now, if you try to get into international treasuries, you already have to be in a government where you have access to that. So that already rules out God knows how.
Wait, private investors can buy treasury bonds?
Yeah, we're not worried about those. We're talking about the average guy in fucking Kenya that has a cell phone and that's it. He's got a governmental currency that's terrible. And so he can't save money in that.
Oh my God, I just realized the disconnect on that. When I said private investors, I didn't mean private investment institutions. Anybody in the world can buy a US Treasury bond, right? Is there like some weird qualifying thing that I'm not aware of? Anybody in the world can open an account anywhere and just buy US Treasury bonds, right? Okay.
He would be way better off in US dollars. He would be way better off buying US Treasuries, but he has no mechanism with which to do that. He doesn't even have a bank account. So many people worldwide would suddenly...
How do you even get crypto if you don't have a bank account? Is it getting paid in crypto?
...be able to get access, partly because it will allow people to innovate and create things like stablecoins that they make available wherever. And
also, is this... So like the poor Ugandan who can't have a bank account is going to be a more worthwhile investor in USD than...
And as long as you have something that can be audited and you have a one-to-one backed with the stablecoin, you are still going to get inflated. So people need to be aware of that. But the inflating USD is far better than...
Fuck. Also, you know one thing I really like? I've been doing this more, and I realized I should have done it here. Sometimes people use analogies or like turns of phrase. And I think you can... Sometimes you want to fight against it and you want to make it inapplicable, but I think you can actually... I think you can just follow the turn of phrase even more to its logical conclusion. Like he says, you know, yeah, this guy wants to do this thing or whatever, and then Trump at least is doing like the Wild West. And it's like, we don't live in the Wild West anymore. Do you know why? Turns out regulation, financial and governmental municipality stability, utility, like these things are actually good. The Wild West is actually not good. There's a reason why we don't have the Wild West anymore, right? I should have just followed that analogy more through.
Virtually any currency on Earth right now. So people all over the world would be like, oh my God, there's now, all of a sudden, there's massive appetite for whatever appetite there is for the digital currency. There will suddenly be an appetite for the treasury.
How do you buy, who's doing the currency conversion if you're buying a stable coin? So like, let's say somebody in Kenya wants to buy a stable coin in the United States. It's being held like on a US-owned treasury.
The mechanism by how that would work, it would certainly be, one would assume, the initial crop are going to be American companies that are they're domiciled here. They know all the regulations. They build the stable coin. It's all backed one-to-one with treasuries. And now they make it available for whatever. They make it available as a phone company. They make it available as a farming consortium, whatever. I mean, there will be untold amounts of innovation once there's clear...
You can't just like open an investment account in any other country, just buy a treasury bond?
...regulation and people know what they could do.
Okay. I don't know if that would work in practice, but okay.
I obviously feel very strongly that will, and that we have to have some ideas around how do we move forward with elongating the runway so that people...
I feel like this, I feel like he's listened to a lot of people talk about the libertarian thing. For people who are my age, I'm 36. If you remember back in the Ron Paul days, abolish the Fed was like the go-to statement that defined basically the entirety of your political existence, right? Like the deficit was the worst thing in the universe. Inflation hurt everybody. It was the worst thing ever. Robbed wealth from people. It was going to lead to the collapse of nations, of our nation. And the only way out was to abolish the Fed and go back to the gold reserve. I believe this when I was, however old I was when Ron Paul was running, 20, I guess. I feel like that thing has come back. That current of thought has come back under the crypto bros. Last thing you hear before your insurance provider jacks your premium by 10,000% a month.
Dear God, he said, we ask only this, that if we die, we must die, and we as men would die without complaining, without pleading, and safe in the feeling that we have done our best for what we believed was right. We must do what is right. Colonel Wolverton, too, died for us so bravely in battle. Today we remember our dear God.
Okay. Why Roger Stone blocked me on Twitter? What a fucking loser. Wait. Fuck, when did I tweet this? Some Republican tweeted out something where he was like, some Republican tweeted out something and he was like, did you guys know that like 30 or 40% of people who have ACA medical insurance don't even take out major claims or whatever? And it's like, what do you think? How do you think insurance works? It doesn't work if everybody takes out major claims. That's the point. Wait, what's going on? Darius on my Discord server? What do you want? It was a senator with an MD. I thought I tweeted this. Maybe what do you want?
I have. Okay, my PC is giving me temps of like 185 on the.
Yeah, that's not happening unless you're measuring in Fahrenheit. So give that to me in real numbers.
Hey, no, it's in Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I know. Give it to me in Celsius. I don't. Who the fuck measures CPU temps in Fahrenheit?
Me, because I don't know Celsius. What the fuck is Celsius? I don't know anything about that.
You would have to change a setting on any output reading to measure a CPU temperature in Fahrenheit.
Oh my god!
It's 85 degrees Celsius. How long is your? Is that the actual temperature, or are you just like adding 20 or?
No, I'm looking at it right now. Right now, I just got out of a game, like literally right now, and it's at 76.
Okay, your CPU or your GPU or what?
CPU.
Okay, that's fine. What about it?
That's normal?
Sure.
Okay, well it sounds like my PC is like taking off. Like it's like loud as fuck. Like the fans are working overtime.
Yeah, the fans are blowing air to keep the CPU cool. That's what the fans do. That's their job. If you want
that's a cool number, 181?
No,
Fahrenheit?
181 is not a cool number because nobody measures these temperatures in Fahrenheit. You measure it in Celsius. But 85 is fine. It's fine.
Okay. All right. So I don't need to take it in or anything.
No, but get
okay, how about this then?
Buy quieter fans.
So I've been playing that. I played that Claire Obscure game. Randomly, it'll just like crash, and also I just downloaded Arc Raiders. I'm playing it, and my PC like does a full on restart. Is that because of it overheating, or is it because of something else?
No, it shouldn't restart if it's overheating. It could be a number of issues. It says what?
Like unexpected error or something, we're restarting, then it goes from 0% to 100, then my whole computer restarts.
Yeah, that's called a blue screen. Sounds like you got some shit that's fucked. I would just reformat.
Oh.
Is it overclocked at all?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, just reformat that shit.
Okay, I'll do it then. Thank you.
Okay, be careful. Oh. Apparently there was some big meme fighting yesterday. What happened?
Trump.
Thoughts on the drama last night. What was the drama? You mean this thing we're about to watch?
Two things that,
But we didn't do that. And so that's where the frustration I think comes from.
so for the latter two things that you said, they gave no indication whatsoever that they were even slightly bending on getting rid of the filibuster or making concessions around the tax credits. So that leaves us with the first one that you said, which is just let them drag this government shutdown out for as long as
they're being blamed for it.
I understand that, but we should be specific about what that means, because it's true that the courts compelled Trump to pay out the SNAP benefits from the emergency funds. Those emergency funds that we have is $4 billion. It costs $8 billion every month to fund SNAP. So those funds are going to dry up in 2 weeks or in a month if he does like half payments. And at that point, we are talking about 41 million people who are 130% under the poverty level that rely on these benefits, literally rely on these benefits to survive. And I feel like it is.
What does 130% under the poverty level mean? They have negative money? I think you misquoted that, but okay.
Insanely privileged position for, I'm not going to assume anybody's situation, but I think, like we're all probably like, okay, are any of us going to lose benefits because of the shutdown?
What do you mean by benefits? Like unemployment and SNAP?
Anything that are you going to lose any benefits because of the government shutdown? You need to survive.
No.
Okay. I feel like it's really easy for us to be like, Democrats should hold the line and fight.
That's not relevant, Touch. Whether or not we specifically, as commentators, are in the class of people who's being helped is irrelevant to the actual argument. You're just making an argument that like individuals who are privileged shouldn't be talking about this.
No. It's easy for you to make the case that these.
This is the thing I said yesterday where I was like, damn, if my flight gets canceled, I would actually get kind of triggered. And then I thought, man, this actually doesn't really matter that much to me. If my SNAP was getting canceled, I might feel a whole lot different. Yeah. But
benefits should end when you're not relying on them to survive. That's my point.
It's easy for you to make the case when the premiums don't affect you because I don't know what the fuck. Like it's easy for you to make any case. Like what kind of argument is that? You're saying that like
if you don't
somehow, so if I were poor, so if I were really, really poor and making this argument, what would you say? Assume that. Why are we getting into this in the specifics of you as like individuals? Why is that relevant to the argument?
That's fine, but I'd be very curious to know what everybody who relies on these benefits, how they feel about the shutdown. That's what I want to know.
This is like classic identity politics garbage.
Let me jump in because okay, I know people that are on SNAP. I know people who work for the government who are being furloughed and they've been asked to come back to work without pay. So they're actually working for free right now. They're not even just getting put out of work and not getting paid. And these people are on board with, hey, yeah, this is hurting me, but ultimately I want this fight to win. Now I don't know what the consensus is. Obviously.
Wait, real quick. I'm sorry. Before we jump all the way, somebody in YouTube chat said in relation to the shares, the golden shares, whatever, that the shares that Donald Trump got in Intel and in the U.S. Steel, Nippon Steel, or whatever merger, that those are non-voting shares. I don't know if it's necessarily appropriate to think of those shares as non-voting shares. Like on paper and for an ordinary investor, they might be non-voting shares. But like imagine somebody owns 20% of your company, but they have non-voting shares. But imagine they're your main supplier. It's not going to feel like they have non-voting shares. Like, well, yeah, technically we can do whatever we want, but like I'm probably going to have to make sure that I'm appealing to this guy's interest because, even though his shares are non-voting, I'm going to get super fucked if I do something he doesn't like. And with the United States government owning shares in your company, yeah, they don't have voting shares, but they can literally shut you the fuck down and investigate you for crimes and destroy your fucking world. So even though they don't have non-voting shares, in a way, I feel like they have more power with those non-voting shares than an ordinary investor would with voting shares, Especially with Trump at the helm, who's literally demonstrated that he's willing to play, dictator with tariffs and everything else,
work and not getting paid. And these people are on board with, hey, yeah, this is hurting me, but ultimately I want this fight to win. Now, I don't know what the consensus is. Obviously, people are going to get hurt. But I mean, yeah, it is easier to say if it doesn't hurt you directly. In the same way, like Hutch, we could, throw it back from last week and be like, well, Hutch, it's easy for you to say, I'll vote for a pro-segregationist Dem to stop a Republican because you're not black. Like, yeah, but that doesn't mean your analysis of the situation is any less valid. It just means it's easier for you, which is true, but it doesn't invalidate your opinion. So
it's literally irrelevant.
It's mostly irrelevant, but the question is like...
But couldn't they just shut you down without any shares? Yes, but you would hope that if the U.S. government is shutting you down, it's because you're doing something wrong or it's in the interest of the country, ideally, right? But let's say, for instance, let's say that the U.S. government had enough shares or the money worked out such that the U.S. government really wanted to fund a new military project, the Kill Palestinian Babies project or something, okay? But they knew that they wouldn't be able to raise the congressional budget to do this or whatever. But let's say then that they look at another company that's making a lot of money and they realize that, okay, well, hold on, depending on how you guys act, we could make enough to fund the Palestinian baby seeker missiles, okay? But let's say that company wants to take their company in a different direction, or they want to do something in terms of how they gear themselves or whatever that would make the government less money. Well, now the US government can apply pressure to that company to ensure that they do the right things, or else they would shut them down. And you don't know now if the US government is acting in the interest that the elected politicians are doing representing their people, or if they're just doing it because they want the government to be able to make more money from that company, or like, it gets weirder. I'm not necessarily saying it would be bad. I'm not necessarily saying that everything the US government does with regards to a company they have a share in is bad, or that a government that doesn't have shares in a company would never do anything bad. I'm just saying that this is the whole issue with conflict of interest. You just don't know. And it's almost impossible to tell. That's why conflict of interest exists. It's because the interest is conflicted. Even if you are making good, wise, and sound decisions, I don't know if anybody would even trust you. It's hard to know.
The ultimate question. Well, it's mostly relevant, but I think.
Wait, what is the relevant? What is the relevance?
We're about to get into that. What the relevant part is, which is how you are correct on this, is how much are we willing to let the American people hurt to get this win? Because if we don't definitely, if we don't say what is the consensus we're reaching to, and we don't know how long it's going to take, will we just let the Republicans lose and lose and lose and lose?
More specifically, people that are not.
Yeah.
More specifically, other people. This is a conversation about how far are we willing to go in terms of allowing other people to suffer so that we get a political win?
Because you're thinking you're thinking in the short term. You're thinking, and this is why you'll always lose, and why Democrats who think this way will always lose. Is if all you're thinking about is a fight tomorrow is about what you're like, then you're never going to in the long term be able to resist Trump or be able to resist the authoritarianism because you're not.
Like, I agree with this in principle, but we already got huge wins. We already extracted huge political wins. Like, if the Dems would have folded on like day 7 or 10 or something, and I was like, whatever. But I think on the backs of all the elections, I mean, we did get something, and then we got a little bit of concessions, not ideally a lot, and then we also demonstrated some of the voters. Like, again, you can argue that maybe it should have gone on for longer, but I don't think you can say that it was just an absolute and utter failure. I mean, this is the longest shutdown in U.S. history. The second longest shutdown was under Trump 1. Like, I don't know.
Playing the long game. You're not playing.
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the cost. I'm thinking about the actual cost of what does it look like when 41 million poor people lose benefits that they rely on to survive.
So if the Republicans condition,
did we win off the shutdown? I mean, it's hard to say, but I mean, I think it was definitely part of the national conversation, right? But I mean, like, we can imagine a world where the government reopens in a week or something, or something happens and then the Republicans spin that into some other bullshit. Like, for instance, in Virginia, one of the conversation topics that can't pronounce the person's last name, they wanted to make the whole thing about fucking trans people. They spent like half their campaigning budget on trans people. And who's to say that the conversation wouldn't have been more about that if not for talking about the extended shutdown or whatever, Who knows? It's hard to say.
If the Republicans conditioned, if Republicans conditioned, this is a hypothetical, okay? If Republicans conditioned reopening the government on eliminating entirely Medicaid, would you vote for that?
Hold on, I'm a little distracted by chat. Ask that question again.
Okay. If Republicans, hypothetically, not really, hypothetically, conditioned reopening the government on eliminating Medicaid entirely, would you vote for that?
No.
But 41 million people will fucking starve, Hutch. How dare you? How dare you do this?
You're talking about eliminating a program that millions of Americans rely on. So it's like,
like kicking 17 million people off
here. You know what I mean? That's not what we're dealing with right now, though. Those aren't the two options. We're not getting rid of Medicaid.
The point is, everyone has a line. Everyone has a line that where they're going to say, yeah, I'm going to fund this government, or I'm not going to fund this government, and where I'm going to vote for something or not. You just said you had a line, and the question is,
do you think this is peak tanky brain from Pisco? Tankies have no issue with letting people suffer short term for some long term vision. I don't know how much he's being influenced by his chat, but no, I think this is a legitimate conversation. I think you could be a non-tanky, and this is a legitimate thought to have, right?
Of course.
Is this a justifiable line? And this is a line that Democrats should follow on. And I thought we went into this fight. We picked this issue specifically because we thought that it was worth fighting and dying on that hill. If that wasn't our position with respect to this issue, we should not have taken this fight. If we did not assess at time equals 0 that this was a fight worth having.
Like, I disagree with that. At the time, we were willing to say, okay, we're going to let 40 million Americans starve to fight. I don't know if that was ever. I don't know if that was ever the 100% agreement that we were arguing for, or the fight that we were arguing for. I don't know.
And this was the issue worth fighting on. Why fight on it?
I am sympathetic to that argument. The argument that, and this is Pacman's argument too. He was arguing the same thing. Like, if you're not, why'd you even pick the fight in the first place? The reason I brought up before I asked you guys, like, how many of you guys were made aware of the tax credits expiring? Was it everybody on this panel? Like, I don't know. The same question for everybody's chat that's currently watching. How many of you guys learned about this issue because of the shutdown? There is value in that. You can make the argument that the shutdown was not worth increasing awareness and salience, but there is value to that.
Okay, then take the deal after a week. This deal was available, or like in the first week. No one was going to give this deal over.
I'm sympathetic.
Was it available in the first week? I thought for like the first week they basically weren't talking. I don't remember. But even if it wasn't available in the first week, or I'm sorry, even if this exact deal was available in the first week, I think drawing it out for making it the longest shutdown ever, I think it was good. I think it was fine. I still think that's better than doing it in the first week for sure.
Okay, so like the thing is, and once those premiums come out, you can start fucking doing your media shit on it. Then take the deal in the first week. And why? It almost justifies some of the Republican talking points of like they're letting this. Like, if you're not willing to die for it, then it undermines your entire position staking this out.
You're not dying. not dying for it. You're sacrificing 41 million poor people. That's not you dying. That's other people dying.
Yeah, but also Trump's. So we're going to deal with this relevance point, okay? Hutch, is it relevant?
What the dynamic?
Okay, you don't want to answer. You don't want to answer this question. So this is what Hutch is doing right now. Hutch is basically saying, instead of actually arguing the merits of should we do this or what the import of it, Pisco lives in New York City. Pisco is not poor, and so Pisco is elitist, and Pisco is entitled, and so you shouldn't listen to Pisco because Pisco's not the one fucking dying on the street. That's what you're trying to do right now. That's why I'm taking this so aggressively. Wait, what is the relevance other than that? What you're saying?
There's a very real cost. We need to get away from the abstract and talk about the very real cost. And nobody's talking about that. Of all the people that are enraged on social media, I don't see anybody talking about what would have happened if this would have prolonged and then 41 million people just went from
Bernie Sanders. So Bernie Sanders isn't internalizing the cost. So wait, Bernie Sanders is doing that. Gavin Newsom is doing that. J.B. Pritzker is doing that. Hakeem Jeffries is doing that, and Chuck Schumer are doing that. Is that right? You think they're not internalizing the cost?
Isn't this an appeal?
They don't care about because they're rich, right?
Policy?
No,
wait, you're making the argument. So I'm associating myself with all the base Democrats who are saying cowardice, bending the knee, and even Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer in their official position.
But you're not engaging what I just said.
What am I not engaging with?
Because you're saying, oh, it's right because a bunch of people think it's right. I'm telling you, like, okay, if you have a discussion do it.
Dude, no. What you're saying.
Wait. So Hutch, you said, don't get me wrong. Did you say people are not talking about the cost of what will be affected if we continue the shutdown? Correct?
Yeah, I don't think people are talking about it enough. Like some people are mentioning it in the abstract.
The leaders of this shutdown who voted no to end the shutdown are saying we understand the consequences. People like Gavin Newsom and Pritzker and Schumer, especially Newsom, to my knowledge, is like I'm going to personally alleviate those things because I think it's worth helping these people using resources that we shouldn't have to continue this fight. Right, Pisco?
Yes, essentially that this accusation of privilege, which is what Hutch is doing. Like right now, it is clear he's saying
this starts to get into like very weird, not weird, but you have to take like a very nuanced political view of what's going on too. In that like you can have an optimal strategy that gives outs to different members of your political like class, your elected politicians, even the ones that aren't directly involved. So for instance, it could be that an optimal political path could be we're doing the shutdown, but also Gavin Newsom is going to shit talk about doing the shutdown, right? Both those things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. Gavin Newsom is like the strongest fighter right now that arguably that we have, that's the most visible, strongest fighter that we have in the country. Like there's a world where it makes sense to end the shutdown politically, but Gavin Newsom is also saying, you know, like Trump caused this is horrible, the Democrats should have pushed even harder, whatever like that. Like these aren't necessarily mutually exclusive worlds.
You don't understand the cost because you're not in the streets and you're not homeless. That's what Hutch is doing right now to me. And I'm saying, wait, hang on, sorry, my headphones. If it's the case that the leaders of this movement are also, not on the streets, but they have the same position I do, would you make that same accusation to Gavin Newsom? Would you make that same accusation to Hakeem Jeffries? Would you make that same accusation?
It depends on what their position is. If their position is keep it going indefinitely, then yeah, I would say to every single one of those people, like, I don't know if it makes sense to fight for, what are we talking about? We're talking about like lowering healthcare for low to low middle income earners. And in that fight, we are willing to, strip benefits away from low income people.
So the dividing line, the dividing line between
the shutdown was finally an optical win for Dems, and the fact that they caved has significantly reduced that win, if not erased it entirely. I would love to see some polling data because that feels like a very online take to me. And I don't think that Hutch should be making this argument as strongly to Pisco, but that does feel like an argument that's coming from a lot of very privileged Twitter users. Like, oh no, we should shut everything down indefinitely and just see how the fuck it goes. And I can't believe the Democrats fucking caved on this. Now I fucking hate the Democrats. I was like, for federal workers that literally are missing multiple paychecks or have been furloughed, for people that are relying on government benefits, like I don't know, I'm not sure, but I would like to see polling data on. I think I feel like it's an optical win for. Plus, it comes back in January, so I guess we'll see.
Lead us out of touch, not understand the cost is my proposition that it be indefinite, even though you have no reason to think that Gavin Newsom or Pritzker had a different position, and where they did not signal that they had an end date, because of course you wouldn't signal that if you were in a negotiation like this.
Right.
But
how much?
Don't you think that caving after all this time will lend credibility to the Republican narrative that it's a Democrat shutdown? No, why? It's their government. I don't think anybody has that feeling.
That makes me out of touch, but not them out of touch.
You're getting so hung up on the out of touch thing.
Oh, no. You brought it up. You brought it up. And hang on a second. So the relevance of that point of you're not poor, you're not the one starving. Tell me what the relevance of that is. It's basically saying you're out of touch. You're not internalizing the cost of the shutdown.
Because it's easier to offer up other people to have to make a sacrifice like this. That's my point.
But wait, why is that?
Nice to know the GOP can just do anything the Dems will cave, and even Destiny defends it. True! Sacrifice the poor for our political content. True! Line them up and kill them. True! King! You're a king, Tay7. King!
That point relevant to whether or not what we should do. That it's easier. Yeah, I grant it. It's easier to offer up other people's suffering.
Okay.
That's true of everybody.
Don't you talk about Republicans never suffering the consequences of their vote? Yeah, true, but I think they have. I think they have suffered. I think we got stuff. I think it was okay. I think we came out of this okay. You could push it harder at Destiny. I think it was an online thing too, but Stephen Colbert, Jon Stewart, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, etc. all think it should have been indefinite. These are also like very left-leaning, more left-leaning than the average person, and also unaffected. Like,
but I'm sorry. What is the relevance of that point? It's not relevant.
Because it informs the larger discussion that's happening right now.
In what way? How does it make it more or less likely?
I am making the point that I think people should be talking more about the specific cost. That's what I'm saying.
You're making a point that the reason you're not talking about the government shutdown cost to me, the reason you're not doing that is because you're not on the streets. Isn't that what you're doing?
Bro, this is like 20 minutes of litigating your hurt feelings. Can we let
Ryan Petty is the most neutral person. He's literally in the middle of all of us right now. Ryan, your thoughts on this?
So I think Hutch is making an important point about there is a human cost to this. I mean, people will hurt the longer this goes on. At the same time, that's politics. To an extent, that's politics. People, and I want to be really careful about where we're putting the agency here, because to the extent that people are hurt by the shutdown, the Republicans could end it tomorrow. Their ideological commitment to the filibuster does not absolve them of responsibility for the fact.
Most contractors aren't living paycheck to paycheck, so it is retarded of you to use them as an example. Sociopaths need to feel pain in order to have the capacity for sympathy, and a couple months of pain is the price we needed to pay to get rid of MAGA's popularity. But we did, didn't we? Like, the popularity has fallen a ton. No? Like, would the goal have been to push it to civil war? If that was like, is this the civil war fight on this?
That they control the government. I mean, in my opinion, I think that that's the case. So is there a point at which Democrats should say, like, no, your inability to run the government is hurting too much. We have to, reopen the government? Probably so. I don't know what that point is. The official position of the Democratic Party should be that will continue indefinitely. That should be the public position. Otherwise, the Republicans will just hold starving people as a hostage every time.
Right. That's kind of my take on this, Hutch, is like, yes, I understand this. There's a human cost to this, but like with the agency of who are the people fighting not to pay SNAP? It's not Democrats because they're continuing the shutdown. It's the guy going to the Supreme Court and saying, make me not have to pay SNAP.
I understand
right? And I know you're not, I'm preaching the choir here, but my point is, this almost feels like the inverse of the Democrat blame graph, where it's like, why are we saying that, well, this is a human cost that the Democrats are imposing, and not, hey, we can continue to blame this on Republicans and they should have this held at their feet.
That's not my position, just to be clear.
Well, sure. Okay.
I put the blame mostly on the Trump administration, but to the extent that Democrats have the power to make sure that 41 million people don't lose these benefits. And it's not just SNAP, by the way. There's also WIC for like single moms. There's also, we give out assistance to millions of people to pay their rent each month. We give out assistance to people to pay their energy bills each month. You also have like federal workers that are furloughed. I mean, this is so much bigger than just SNAP.
Why would you vote no, Hutch? It's pretty privileged of you to vote. Wait, I understand that you're not taking. I understand that you're not taking the position that you would do indefinitely.
I'm really sorry.
Wait a second. So I understand. Wait. I just want to make my point. So I understand you're taking. I understand that you're saying that.
Sorry, please.
Wait, I want to finish.
Like, I feel like the big. This is what will determine, I guess, the success or failure, I guess, of this is Democrats shut down the government, or there was a shutdown because Republicans wanted to fuck with your healthcare, and the ACA subsidies are expiring. And everybody's healthcare is going to go up. So when the next shutdown rolls around, or when the next conversation about it comes around, what should be remembered is publicly people thinking like, okay, well, Democrats wanted to do something related to healthcare. The Republicans ultimately said no, and then the government was reopened. But now all of my healthcare costs are going up. What the fuck? Like, ideally, this is the simplest form of narrative weaving that everybody kind of like leans into, I think. Why was there a sunset clause for the ACA subsidy? Because Democrats are evil. The reason why you sunset things is it's a strategic decision made so that in the future, the opposing party can accuse you of doing something mean or evil, when in reality, you probably wouldn't have agreed to it unless it was sunset claused in the initial vote. That's actually why. So it'll be something like this, okay? Republicans and Democrats make a deal not to murder all old people in the United States, and Democrats are willing to give on some things, but Republicans are like, we're not going to vote on this deal not to murder all old people unless you agree that this deal goes away in 10 years, right? And Democrats are like, okay, fine, fuck. And if the deal comes up again under a Republican administration, well, if it's popular, okay, well, we'll just solidify it. It's your provision. But if the deal comes up again and it's a Democratic administration, then the Republicans go, okay, well, time to renegotiate again. We're here to collect interest. And Democrats are like, well, hold on. I thought we should keep this. And Republicans are like, well, if you thought it was such a good idea, why'd you put a sunset clause in? The reality is it would have never been voted on initially without the sunset clause. That's why those are normally put in.
Did you hear him say he's sorry, yes or no?
Yes, I did hear. Yes, I did hear.
Back. I'm sorry.
Isn't it the case that if you were to vote no now, that's a privileged position, because even if it were for 2 or 3 weeks, you're not the one actually suffering, not having those benefits, right?
Well, you lost me. I don't understand.
Isn't that privileged? You're not actually internalizing the cost, since you said, right?
I'm sorry. I'm a hypocrite. I'm sorry.
Pisco, I want to call you out on something. You said something very dangerous, in my opinion. You said these guys were handpicked to be the guys who vote no. So you're implying that Chuck Schumer is not sincere, Hakeem Jeffries isn't sincere, that the entire Democratic Party, you're saying the entire Democratic Party is in on this no vote. So then what are you talking about when you say they were handpicked? What does that mean?
Well, wait. I'm curious what IRA thinks about it. I think these were absolutely handpicked to vote no, but that's a good thing. That's playing politics intelligently, right?
I'll tell you exactly what I mean.
Okay.
Tim Kaine said that there were more senators. Ryan Getty disagreed that there's definitely more senators among the caucus who didn't vote this way, even though they agreed with that position. And Tim Kaine confirmed that there were people behind the scenes saying, we're glad that what you're doing. And so therefore, given the fact that there are significantly more, at least, and Tim Kaine was suggesting more senators who agreed with this position, and only the exact amount of people. What do you mean the bullshitting? Tim Kaine's
could have been bullshitting. Who knows what the hell he's saying?
Do you think Tim Kaine is lying?
I have no idea. I have no idea what he's saying. There could have been people behind the scenes that were almost there, that weren't there. But they were still no's.
Okay, I'm assuming Tim Kaine is telling the truth.
That like only 2 of the 8 are up for election, like next year. I frankly think that there were definitely more. I think they put up these ones that are all like half of them are retiring, and then like 2 more aren't going to be up for election for another 6 years. And I think
Pisco's alleging like a clandestine Democrat like scheme, right? It's more just like
I think there are genuine senators and genuine reps who.
It's like a textbook example of.
How is this argument different from the Ukraine should just surrender to stop the killing? It saved their citizens from suffering. Line of thought. Is capitulating to malice not encouraging more of it in the future? Well, it's. If we were 50 years into the war or something, and it was like very obvious that with all the help in the world, Ukraine was going to lose, and every single citizen is going to be raped and murdered, then at some point you say, okay, fuck, I guess you kind of have to surrender, right? The reason why we say Ukraine should keep fighting is because 1, it's not necessarily, foregone that they're going to lose 100%, and 2, also because we could be doing more to help, right? That's the difference. The goal shouldn't necessarily be to suicide run head first into every single fight, especially if it's a fight you've already kind of won. Like, I wouldn't necessarily agree with Democrats going back to the status quo or accepting this if they got literally nothing. But they didn't get literally nothing. They did get some capitulations. They centered the conversation on healthcare, which I think will be relevant in a couple months. And we had really good political outcomes related to elections. Trump's popularity's fallen. Like, we did get stuff from it. I don't think every single fight necessarily needs to be an existential fight for the death of the country, but
rotating villain. I think that's obviously what's happening. I think the situation is that there's a ton of political pressure on the Democrats right now to prolong this fight from their base.
Wasn't it confirmed that Schumer was hands off Destiny telling people how to vote? I seriously doubt that. You can link me if you think that's the case, but
I think that's obviously what's happening. I think the situation is that there's a ton of political pressure on the Democrats right now to prolong this fight from their base who want them to continue fighting. And I think a lot of senators recognize the perils of that kind of situation, and they were happy to let people that are not in any real danger of an immediate primary fall on the sword. I think that's obviously what's happening here.
That's what I mean by handpicked.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think the language is a little dangerous though, because it implies that there's some sort of like scheme going on. Like, well, I think they were just kind of maybe relieved then that these guys chose to vote yes, so they didn't have to. Because I think that happens a lot where people are like, well, I'm going to wait and see who votes one.
Dick Durbin said he was hands off. Well, I mean, a politician saying a thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that. Okay, if I have 50 senators. And we need to have a really strategic vote. The reason why you have the strategic vote is because you want some people to be able to save face, and you want some people to be able to, you want to get the legislation thing done, right? If I have some people vote in a way that allows others to save face, I can't have somebody come out and say, oh no, we just voted the way we did to save face. Obviously, every Democratic senator should be aligned in saying that, like, oh no, he didn't tell any of us how to vote. It just so happened. Now, you might believe that it just so happens that the 8 Democratic senators that all voted to reopen the government are all people that just happen to not be running for election again, or whose elections are not. Maybe you think that's just a coincidence, but like, I'm sure this was strategically planned. But also, like, another senator coming and say, oh no, nobody told us how to vote. Well, of course, they're not going to say that because that makes the entire point of a strategic vote irrelevant, right?
Way or another, and then I'll decide how to vote. Maybe they would have been the deciding votes if these guys hadn't stepped forward, but these guys chose to, and I think that's the end of it. But you're implying that they're like, okay, I'm going to vote yes because I'm not up for re-election until 2030, so I can stomach.
That's what Hutch just wait. So I mean, that's true of Hutch then, because Hutch just described to you that that's genuinely what he think happened. That people.
Well, I disagree with Hutch too. Hutch, what are you doing, man?
Angus,
what the hell? I'll fight you too, bro.
If Republicans vote no in December to extend the ACA provisions, do you think Americans will blame Republicans, or do you think they will chastise Democrats for shutting down the government just to get a vote they knew will fail anyway? Well, don't we? But then don't we have another thing coming up in January? That feels like a lose-lose. If Republicans vote to extend the ACA provisions, then Democrats can point back to this shutdown and say, look, we did it. This is the plan all along. If Republicans don't hold the vote, or if they vote no, which might be even worse, and people are feeling the pain of those healthcare premiums increasing, then there's another shutdown right in January. So now we get to go back and say, like, okay, well, you said we would vote on it. We voted. You voted no. Americans are mad about their healthcare premiums going up. Like that, assuming the healthcare premiums going up is a real thing, and assuming pain will be felt by that, then that's your next fight. I feel like it's a good position to be in strategically.
I think that's obviously what's happening here. I mean, like,
exactly traded. We're never going to know exactly what was traded, but it wouldn't be a surprising thing in the world if it was like, vote, take the hit on this one, and we'll make sure you have extra input on this next thing coming up. I mean, that's just how sometimes things work in Congress. It's unfortunate, but it's reality. I think.
And there's a lot of non-overlap in the Democrats who voted in favor of this CR in March. I noticed that Brian Schatz is not there. Kirsten Gillibrand isn't there. I even think some of the I think Ossoff voted no, both maybe.
Voted no.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but like I notice that there's a lot of if you were to pick the most like optimal senators to vote this way, it would be these people. It would be these people. And I'm saying that the whole Senate is in on some grand conspiracy.
Warnock's not up for re-election. He could have voted. I mean, I can make the case for a bunch of these guys could have been one of those votes.
It's a grand conspiracy orchestrated like by puppet master Chuck Schumer, but I'm certain that there were some overlapping, deals that were struck. You're going to vote for this, and we're going to, make sure that the DNC is not, maybe we're going to throw a little bit more money to some super PACs, in your re-election campaign. Well, I don't know. I just don't think that it's. I don't know. I am almost certain that it was predetermined who was going to be.
So the vote was strategic, but the messaging wasn't. I can't believe that, but it's stupid on the upside. Well, Democrats just can't do messaging because they don't control all the media platforms they have. Republicans can always be more aligned on messaging because they control all of their own media platforms, right? All of it is basically vertically aligned because it's all essentially in-house, really, the messaging is, and nobody's going to break from that messaging. The Democratic messaging is always going to be worse than the Republican messaging because the liberal media is not aligned at all on anything.
Angus King said these guys weren't going to budge, and there was no moving them. The Republicans, there was no moving them any further. Nothing else would have helped. It was just going to make people suffer more.
What if the Republicans actually vote yes on the ACA and claim the Dems were being silly for shutting down the government? Then the Democrats can say, why didn't you just do it before? Why do we have to be shut down for so long? Why'd you wait? Why'd we put this off? I think it's an easy one, I think.
So what do you say to his argument?
So why don't you agree with him?
I'm just saying that's his reason, and I believe him. If he believes that, then I disagree, but I don't have all the facts in front of me. I don't know. I'm not a senator from Maine and listening to my constituents. I have no clue. But from my point of view, I think they could have kept fighting. I'm just saying, how do you respond to his argument? Do you think he just gave in, or he's...
Well, I think Angus King is, first of all, he was against this in the first place. So
yes,
Angus King voted no. So when Angus King's like, wow, look at this amazing vote we got in the Republican-controlled Senate. Like, Angus King doesn't give a shit about this. So he voted in favor of opening the government on the Republican package in the first vote. And so one is, I think, and he's even like laughing when he says, I think it's 50-50 that this eventually passes the Democrat-written bill. And he chuckles through it because he can't actually, like, it's so preposterous, that notion. So first of all, Angus King's, his own determinations, I think, are questionable. But on the issue of whether the Republicans would have ultimately bend it, I'm not sure they would have. But that's why you pick an issue that's so important and so critical at the start that you are willing to, have that be your bottom line. Don't pick a bottom line if you're not willing to stick to it. And I'll even grant you this. If it were the case that this were the optimal time to drop it, and this were the optimal time to sign on to this, signaling vote that means nothing, then why isn't the doling out of this policy better PR strategized? Why isn't the case that we have more uniformity? Why are we in a situation where you have the leading candidates for Maine Senate, right? Like Plattner and Mills both saying it is a fucking cave. Newsom, cave, cowardly, he says. Pritzker, cowardly, cave. Why is it the case that our leading candidates are all saying the worst possible things on it? That doesn't seem like a good strategy, even if this were the optimal time to drop the fight. And if it's the case that, like as Hutch said, that it's the fear of the base. And I think that some of that is true. And the fear of their own voters. What does that tell us about the disconnect between the leadership and the voter? That just confirms it. And it confirms that they don't feel they can be honest to their voter.
I mean, that's just...
Wait, real quick, let me just add one thing. And that's, what is the signal to the Republicans? It's, hey, if you give indications that you won't budge, no matter how much you're hurting, the SNAP recipients, the WIP recipients, whatever, then Democrats will just eventually fold. There's no point in ever standing to any fight, because all you have to do is just say no over and over, no matter how much it hurts your credibility, no matter how much it hurts your polling, no matter how much it makes Donald Trump say he's going to get rid of the filibuster. Doesn't matter. Eventually, Democrats are going to fold. You can make people hurt for as long as you want. Like, what is that signal? It's like, okay, well, we just negotiated with the terrorist or whatever allegory you want to use. Like, why ever fight?
I guess it depends on whether or not you see the elections as happening. Like, these guys are talking like we're never going to have elections again. I guess if you don't think we're going to have elections again, it's fine. But, like, all you need to do, technically your job is to gear up, because our job, really the job should be to pass legislation. But Republicans have decided that they're beyond governance. They don't need to govern anymore, right? But all you need to do is demonstrate enough that the other side has failed so much that you're going to win the next set of elections. That's your goal. So you can say, fine, we'll capitulate, but not until we've made our point politically. Then it's going to damage you come midterms, and I think it is. It's my feeling, but yeah.
Ever against the Republicans ever, if they're never going to budge, they just will say no, and eventually enough senators will be like, well, they said they weren't going to do anything, so we just decided to vote no.
And it's not your fault, Hutch and I know you guys are looking at silver linings. I know, and I think that there is a lot of benefit to what's going on. It is so frustrating as someone who was so like ecstatic and happy about every side of the Democratic Party doing well on Tuesday, to have this sort of put out in the middle of the night on the weekend, and to have this like just with no coordination, and seemingly, even if it isn't strategized at some level of leadership where you have the whip, right?
But what is the happy feeling? The happy feeling is that we won elections. I don't know if that happy feeling is going to carry forth through planes crashing into each other, or airports being shut down, or SNAP like everything is going to get more and more chaotic. Also, chaotic environments are harder to control too. And I feel like because of how unified they are, Republicans thrive more in chaotic environments as well. I don't know.
Democratic whip is one of the leaders, Dick Durbin from Illinois. It feels that way. And they must have known this would have. So that's where the frustration is coming from. And so I'm not trying to make it personal.
I understand. I'll just say, when I saw that the deal was made, I thought we just won the midterms, because there'll be no subsidies and people are going to get fucked and they're going to be pissed. And we just won the midterms. That's how I saw it.
I mean, I think we came out better for having done this. I just wish we held out a little longer.
I think this is I could see an argument for holding out a little longer, but to pretend that it was a loss, I just don't agree with that at all. Yeah.
Literally my exact position, by the way.
I think we all agree on that.
Yeah. So to piggyback off of what IRI is saying right now, like, we're framing this, I think we're only thinking about like the short term, the PR hit, like the appearance of like fecklessness or weakness. Like, okay, that's fine. I guess that's a W for Donald Trump for the next news cycle, like a week, 2 weeks. How long are people going to be talking about this? But what's the reality of the situation? They just got creamed by margins that we haven't seen since fucking 2008 in terms of the overperformance. Like, the numbers that came out of last Tuesday are you have to go back like almost 2 decades to get that kind of overperformance. And the reality is that these cuts are going to happen. And to Ryan's point, I think they were always going to happen. I think I even expressed on this podcast a couple times.
I think people have the view that Democrats are weak leaders, and this really doesn't help. Then fight for it harder on the media front, because if your view of this is just that they're weak, then you have a very naive, privileged view of the government, right? The weakness is the psychopathy of the Republican side, right? You're saying to Democrats, wow, you guys couldn't bleed 40 million Americans for a couple months? Seriously? You guys couldn't throw 41 million Americans to the wolves to get your concessions? How weak are you guys? Wow. You guys couldn't watch your constituents start? Wow, really, guys? What weak leadership. Like, that's a retard position to occupy. You're retarded or you're rich and it doesn't affect you, right? These are genuinely tough decisions, because at some point it's all politics, but the government does really do real stuff. There's a real thing that the government does, and at some point you kind of have to look like, okay, well, like, there's an actual material harm being done, and it might be worth it to take a small political hit for the massive material harm. Like, to pretend that, like, oh, well, it's so easy what they should have done, blah, blah, that's a retard position. And the reason why people like you are allowed to have retard positions is ultimately, I would say, a failure of the left messaging apparatus, which needs to be better. But, like, do you think it was wrong messaging then when Newsom said it was wrong for Dem leadership to capitulate? Newsom can say what he wants. I think Newsom should have a strong leaning on it. I think it's fine for Newsom to fire some bombs. Newsom is our strongest fighter politically, and I think it comes out with him looking even better or stronger. I think that's fine. I think that there can be different actions, different segments of the Republican or the Democratic Party that are messaging, even at times where it appears to be in conflict. It's benefiting all the sides, I think. To be fair, Destiny, you do say that people should feel the effects of their vote. They have. When I say feel the effects of your vote, I don't mean if you vote wrong, you should die instantly. I think people have felt the effects. I think it has happened. The question is, like, should every single fight be about civil war, right?
I don't know how realistic it is to expect that we're going to get these full tax credits back. Like, I just don't know if the Republicans are going to play ball. Maybe I thought maybe we might get like maybe half of the subsidy. I don't really know, like a quarter, just something. But this feels like this. We were always headed to this outcome at some point or another. And
it's not Democrats starving 40 million people. It's Republicans. They can just say yes to end it. Yeah, but the problem is if there might be a world where people feel enough pressure that you no longer feel that way, right? If you're sitting in a chair, let's say that you're sitting in the electric shock chair, okay? And there's two people over here. And you really want this guy to have unlimited Coca-Cola, okay? You want him to have unlimited Coca-Cola, all right? And this guy wants it. This guy's like, yeah, unlimited Coca-Cola. And this guy's like, no, unlimited Coca-Cola, fuck you. And as they're negotiating this, you're getting kind of shocked. You know, it's whatever, who cares? But if the shocks get harder and harder and harder, the voltage gets higher and higher and higher, and it's starting to become really, really, really painful. Now, in the very beginning, this guy can say, you know, hey, listen, you know, you don't have to get these light shocks. We could be done as soon as this guy agrees to do the Coca-Cola deal. Like, we'll be good. And this guy is probably even willing to, yeah, sure, yeah, fuck it, okay, yeah, whatever. But at some point, the pain is going to get bad enough over here that this guy might start looking at this to be like, bro, you can end this. I'm sorry, but you got to end this. And I don't know if we get to the point to where the voters are now mad at the Democrats as well. We're like, bros, what the fuck? This is fucked now, okay? Come on, guys, we get it, right? If that flip happens and then Democrats vote on that flip, that might end up looking worse than like where we're at now, or maybe even worse than Republicans might come out ahead, maybe. Who knows, depending on how. It's just hard. Once things get chaotic, if there's like enough fuck shit, it's hard to know how the average voter would respond on this. It's hard to say. I'm confused why you think it's okay that Newsom has a strong differing position on this. Didn't you say the strength of the Republican media apparatus, that they're always in lockstep? Well, one, it's because we're in a minority government, so we can't actually control anything. But two, we don't have that apparatus yet, so we're not going to be as in lockstep. Destiny sounds like a messaging issue. It's not a messaging issue. It's a messaging and a factual issue, because both sides are technically deciding to cause the pain to happen, and the Democrats could end it at any point in time. They're just saying that they don't want to end it because there is also like a very real concession that would be beneficial to everybody they want to pull out. But at some point, the pain will be bad enough that maybe you should end it, you know? But
reality is these premium spikes are going to impact tens of millions of people in January. And the Republicans right now are in charge of government. And anybody who thinks that Donald Trump is going to be able to fool the public about who's to blame for these subsidies going up, that is one of the most online takes I've ever heard in my life. This is something that is just a truism, just across the board when it comes to politics. Anytime there's economic hardship, like a massive event where a lot of people experience economic hardship, they always blame the party in power.
But Hutch, he's going to give us the $2,000 tariff checks. He's the money president now. You don't think that's going to sway him?
Ironically, that is one of the most dangerous recent developments in American politics. I mean, this is one of the classic democracy failure states. There's, people smear like welfare as like, oh, people are
just a handout. Yeah,
it's gonna spiral into infinity. But this is of a fundamentally different kind than what we do with normal welfare or direct benefits to people. Arbitrarily looting the American people through tariffs imposed directly by the president, and then using that money to send checks to buy loyalty. I mean, this is actually a remarkably bad development for American democracy.
I was going to say, you got to say the line, Ryan, which is this is incredibly dangerous to democracy.
Yeah, the Sinclair News line. No one's talking about the real silver lining of ending the shutdown, which is we get to do Epstein discourse again. When the House
that's true. You could have sold me on that, though. Are we going to approve that last House member? We're going to get the Epstein vote?
Yeah, she's going to get sworn in.
They have to. That's why they've been holding the House out of session, which is in itself an incredibly unprecedented thing. The idea that, in theory, the second or third most powerful person in the United States government, the Speaker of the House, just chooses to not call his own branch together to meet, to have power, is crazy. I mean, that is crazy, and I wish that registered as bad to more people. I understand why it doesn't, since we're not all so institutional pilled, but it is really bad.
It's a great point. Like the notion of this Madisonian check power within the federal government has completely collapsed, and except in some of these key areas, like I think probably tariffs, even though on tariffs.
In your example, it would be like the do you want to kill people now or later question, where you either present the people with harm caused by the weapons now, or we see them cut the ACA, which leads to death anyways. No, but there's midterms. There are midterms coming up. There are midterm elections. That's what we're geared towards. That's what this is oriented towards, is winning the midterms. The goal isn't necessarily that we have to be civil warring the entire Republican Congress right now to get what we want. Like, obviously, when we can push for things, it's good to push for what we can. But as long as we're still getting big political wins and electorally things seem strong, then you're fighting for the midterms. That's what your orientation is towards.
The Republican Congress isn't willing to do a negative vote on it, but they're not going to actively promote it. And similar thing, I think, on the filibuster. But other than those like key few areas, it doesn't seem like there's or the walls that existed between the executive branch and the legislative branch are crumbling, and it's partisan that's sort of winning the day, as opposed to these delineated branches of government.
Well, I mentioned that.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, as we mentioned this, when I talked to Newsom, I said, isn't the real issue of the shutdown, shouldn't it be, hey, we can't approve any spending bill until you promise us that Trump is actually going to spend it the way the Congress has allocated it? He said, yeah, that is the main issue, but that's not resonant with voters. It's not as politically salient, so we have to do it about healthcare, which is still important. But the main issue is, well, does Congress even fucking matter anymore? And like the caving here, kind of makes me feel like I really do wish we would fight on that. But I understand you can't message that to the American people. It's very important that, like, yeah, we don't know if we really have three branches of government anymore. It's kind of eroding. But go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
Oh no, Hutch, you were trying to get in.
No, I mean, I wanted to piggyback off of I want to go back to what I was saying before, which is that I disagree with the vote last night. And one of the reasons why, like we already discussed, was like I do think this should have been stretched out a little bit longer. I think my red line is just when people stop losing that critical those benefits. That's just, and I don't think like that is like the obvious morally correct decision either. Like it might be correct to stretch that out because there could be some bigger gain down the line. And if somebody wanted to make that argument, I could be persuaded. It's just that's like where I go.
1 million people off Snap was the only way to beat Trump.
Fuck, bro. Fuck.
Too easy, man.
What do you mean? That's an easy yes, right?
As always, the calculation is like what's going to do more harm, and so like I'd have to like really think about that. But yeah. I mean, these are
fascism over mass starvation.
Yeah, well,
these are tough.
Seriously, Hutch. I don't know. I'd sacrifice 41 million. I'd sacrifice 50 million SNAP recipients.
These are tough.
1,000 children to stop fascism.
The point is like these are not straightforward calculations. This is not a science, and so I think like. To kind of get back to like where I think the Democrats went wrong on this, it is insane to me that it's like, okay, fine. If there was backroom deals and you pick these senators to be the ones to fall on the sword, like I'm not morally offended by that. That just seems like kind of standard politics to me, whatever. I mean, but the ones that they did pick did just about the worst job you could possibly imagine in terms of making that case. Like that Angus King line. I don't even think what he said was
wasn't working. It wasn't working.
I don't even think what he said was technically wrong, but it was so politically stupid to have him be that person to go out there and do that.
Sure.
I think that does signal weakness. There was another person, there were like 2 other people that did a press conference today, and I just think that there should have been a more coherent plan in terms of how to navigate the messaging. Or I think maybe you could have even been straightforward about like, look, we really want to raise the awareness of this issue. It's really difficult to imagine Donald Trump, giving concessions here, but we want to inform as many people. But like maybe you could have even been straightforward about that to begin with. Like I don't know. I'll leave that to better political minds. But
there's no guarantee this is going to pass in the House. By the way, they could run into some troubles over there.
I don't think so. So Schumer should.
House is just a simple majority, right? Or am I wrong on that? And the Republicans should have it, right?
They can only lose 2 votes on
before we light a new fire. Before we light a fire, Chatter was talking.
What do people like Pisco think would happen if we kept the government shut down for another month? Fascism would just end. Well, I mean, there are a couple of potential ramps if the shutdown continues that people would theorize would be good for us. One is that people harp more and more and more on the Republicans, and eventually the Republicans cave and give everything that the Democrats wanted. I don't see that as being very high likelihood. I think that's highly unlikely. The second thing would be that the first that the Republicans capitulate. The second thing is that I don't know what the second thing would be. It would just be that they would just assume that abolishing the filibuster. Oh, yeah, but I don't think there was any indication that would happen either. No.
Talking about it, maybe you guys know more about this, that Mike Johnson was considering not even taking the vote. Did you see something about that?
On the ACA stuff, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because and everyone knows it. That's why this it's a nothing. It's saying we're getting nothing. It's not a deal at all. It's just bullshit.
Hold on.
That assuming we believe in the ACA and assuming that the ACA works, that should be good for us. Like there's a world, and this gets a little bit more. So we're trying to balance political wins with material harm. There's a world where not getting those ACA subsidies maybe helped us. Keep in mind that Republicans over-index a lot on hating Obama and hating the government and hating the ACA and all this bullshit. But if those premiums start to go up, like we're in a prime timeline for it to happen, in terms of it's got enough time to ramp up for people to feel the pain before midterm voting actually happens as the campaign season starts, like we might be like optimally positioned for that.
Let's not count out the ACA subsidy extension here. So the Democrats have been given a guarantee of a vote by the second week of December. That might get some momentum going. There are Republicans that want to see these ACA subsidies extended, and I don't think it's an impossible thing for that to pass, and then the Republicans in the Senate have so much pressure, or Republicans in the House feel pressured to do something. I mean, Mike Johnson said we got to do something about these ACA subsidies, but we got to negotiate after the government's open. So, I mean, people are just acting like it's dead. I wouldn't be so sure.
I think that's delusional. I don't know.
Delusional?
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about people on policy grounds who cut Medicaid by like $800 billion to pay for their taxes. These are people who...
Yeah, but this could start, but like who are they cutting the Medicaid to? Probably least likely voters is my guess. Actually, I don't know if anybody has for the Medicaid, because weren't the Medicaid recipients that were cut, it tended to be younger, healthier people who were like just not getting jobs or whatever. You can argue regardless of who should or shouldn't qualify for it. But my guess is the subset of people that were affected there were probably like your least likely voters anyway, right? It's not like Medicare, I think the ACA stuff will hit everybody across the board a lot differently.
Ran on destroying the ACA.
Okay,
and now out of the head of Zeus, they're going to fucking fund it more?
Why did Mike Johnson and Trump say, yeah, we got to do something about that then?
Because
they're liars.
There's a couple senators who will vote for it. There's a couple Republican senators who will vote for it, but it will not be enough.
Yeah, and if they were serious about voting for it at all, why wouldn't they say, okay, cool, let's vote for an extension right now and then the shutdown, right?
Like I said, a big chunk of people who took advantage of those subsidies in the last few years are in red states and are conservatives. I mean,
who the fuck is audience? Whose is that? That chatter right there. What the fuck?
Which chatter? I don't know.
Yeah, you're gonna have to be a little more specific.
It might be my free speech chat.
Is it Cosmic something? Who the fuck? Yeah, Cosmic Milarepa. I've never been so triggered in my entire life.
I don't see him. Get him up there. Oh, wait, he's in mine. Leave him alone.
No, we weren't here for the...
killed Obamacare last night. There's a lot of fucking... I genuinely feel like the majority of people that are screaming about this online don't actually know what happened last night. That's my sense of things. Because that is not what
I think that is like, so you want to talk about out of touch? I don't think that's like, of the people who are commenting on it, you don't think they know enough to be critical on what's going on?
I just see a lot of takes like, I saw so many takes of people saying Democrats voted to take away your healthcare last night. And that's not what happened.
Wow.
That's not what happened.
Okay. I think it is really important that we don't lose the impetus of whose fault this all is. Yeah. I mean, it is the Republicans fundamentally who are in charge of all three branches of government. And if they, it's their fault, and this is why I don't feel so bad about saying like, we should have, kept it going for as long as I think my line to reopen the government, I think it would have been a guaranteed vote in both houses. I don't think that was
Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to lead the fight of Republicans fighting for the ACA credits. Mark my words. Write it down and shit on me if I'm wrong, but mom me if I'm right. I agree. I think it's hard to say this because there's so much because there's so much variance and there's so many different things that impact everything, right? People are looking at like Nick Fuentes as being like the up-and-comer disruptor, I guess, of Republican politics. And people are sleeping on, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene could represent like a big meme shift. I think I saw even Donald Trump called her misguided. What did he say? He said she lost her way. Can I get this not from the Young Turks?
Meeting with the Syrian president earlier today, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a big ally of yours, said that she would rather see you focused on nonstop domestic policy meetings here at the White House instead of nonstop foreign policy meetings. What's your response to her saying that, and also saying that grocery prices are up and not down, as you said?
Yeah, so I don't know what happened to Marjorie. She's a nice woman, but I don't know what happened. She's lost her way, I think.
Well,
I haven't watched enough Trump media in the past few weeks. I've been traveling so much. I don't know, I could be over-indexing on just this one comment. Maybe Trump has said more, but it's very interesting how Trump talks about her here, because it feels like Trump is treading a lot more carefully than he would be on other people. I'm curious, has Trump truthed out anything about Marjorie Taylor Greene? Because remember, when people like Rand Paul or Massey or these other guys were or even Elon Musk were like breaking from Trump brought the fucking hammer down on these people. Trump was like, these are losers. You're getting primaried. Fuck you. Get the fuck out. Can we get some real MAGA in here? But when Marjorie Taylor Greene comes out, Trump's like, she's a nice woman. I think she's lost her way. He's like a lot more deferential, maybe because he's aware that like that's not a fight that Trump wants to take on. He doesn't have the political capital right now. I don't think the calculation is this complicated in this fucking retard's head. Or maybe he had like all the MAGA brain cells were on loan for this one press conference.
Well, it appears that Marjorie Taylor Greene was actually sincere when she said that
she's pretty strong on the Epstein files too, right? Yeah, but like I know Epstein files are a big deal online, but broadly for the political voting class, I'm not sure if it's as big of a deal. But the prices going up, that's a ubiquitously felt on both sides, every state. That's a huge deal. So for Marjorie Taylor Greene to talk a lot about Epstein files, like, yeah, okay, sure, like whatever. For her to say that Trump is failing on affordability, that's a big claim, and that cuts to the very core of what Trump is supposedly trying to alleviate. He's making all the opposite claims. He's saying costs have gone down, and we're doing tariffs, and we're doing everything else, and this is all a lie, whatever. So for MTG to come out and contradict him on the affordability thing, and then for him to like very lightly kind of like, well, you know, she's lost her way. She's a nice woman. She's lost her way. I don't know. That's crazy.
she was all about being America first, something that Trump ran on and then immediately proved that he wasn't serious about. So Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has been hammering both the Trump administration and the Republican Party, in particular Republican members of Congress, for a few weeks now, actually several weeks now. And today, as you just saw, President Donald Trump decided to hit back. Cenk, 2 cents?
Yeah, I love this fight. And you know, mainstream media is getting something monumentally wrong about it, which is,
do I want to listen to this?
They're saying, oh, is Marjorie Taylor Greene less MAGA now that she's opposing Trump? No.
Oh my God, don't do it. He's gonna be like, no, she's even more MAGA. This is truly what MAGA was always about. MAGA was always the populist reflection of us on the right, when they just wanted to make the country better for everyone. I'm just kidding, I don't know.
Oh, I think that they're completely missing what's happening for MAGA online. She's more MAGA, not less. We'll talk about why in a minute.
But more MAGA in a way that I like, right? What I mean by that is typically when we thought of MAGA, we thought of, you know, the people marching in Charlottesville saying the Jews will not replace us, right? No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about actual, hey, we need to take care of Americans in America. There are a lot.
I could write, if they need me to write the script for these guys, I can do it. If you guys are bored of, I don't know if they try to like freeball it or if they actually have other writers, I can do all of it for you, okay? Jesus. Jesus. What is this drama that happened yesterday?
I literally did address that. What have I not addressed that I said? I literally addressed everything. I have. Wait, I literally did address that. What have I not addressed that I said? I literally addressed everything. I have Darius harsh ignored in chat. So if you say the word Darius, I don't see it. If Darius types, I don't see it. So just so you guys know.
This is, you leave me a 2-hour video. I don't, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened to Marjorie. She's a nice woman, but I don't know what happened. She's lost her way, I think. But I have to view the presidency as a worldwide situation, not locally. I mean, we could have a world that's on fire where wars come to our shores very easily if you had a bad president. But with all of that, I passed a great, big, beautiful bill, which is the biggest tax cuts in the history of our country. So when somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's now catering to the other side, I don't know what, I guess she's, got some kind of an act going, but I'm surprised at her. But when somebody like Marjorie goes over and starts making statements like that, it shows she doesn't know.
I think it's a very important fight to follow. We'll see where that goes. There was some meme drama that I didn't read about because I've been traveling. I don't know what happened, but supposedly she wanted to run for senator and Trump told her no, but I don't know why. I don't know what that means or what was going on there, but because she would lose the seat. Are we worried, or I don't, in her district, would it not be another Republican that would probably win, or? Oh, because she wouldn't win the election. I don't know what Ossoff's popularity is in Georgia in terms of how likely he would be to win against her. I have no idea. Finish my essay. I can't believe Hassan gets racially profiled, supposedly. And then makes excuses for it. It's actually just so fucking cringe.
Roger, you seen this? Oh yeah. Look. Yeah. 是什么呀？他录的视频。你是他导游？没有。哦，这是什么？导游。OK。这是导游啊。他就过来招待一下。是啊，因为导游。问问他那个，问问他那装直播那什么东西。让他拿出来给我看。OK， 要看直播的东西是吗？对，我看一眼刚你那 photo。So he wants to see the photo. Oh, what is the photo?
Okay, they're not on your phone. Good on there, but my internet is not so good. Okay, we'll on your back. Okay, they're not on your phone. I think. We're back.
Is this guy like recording his old TV in a dark room in a pitch black? What the fuck is this recording?
Waiting for Will to get out of the bathroom now. Yeah. Which I wonder if there's a line to the bathroom.
whenever the police showed up, they thought, so that thing that we went to, okay, the flag raising ceremony is not.
People that post clips that have them automatically speed up, you guys are just the worst types of people, but.
It's not in focus. Hold on, I'm gonna fix it. The flag raising ceremony that we went to is not a thing that white people normally go to, right? It's not normally something that like white people attend, right? And I assume that they are probably extra attentive and extra careful about people coming to do some fuck shit. Like, there's a reason why, for example, there were Chinese nationals on each other's backs, right? But I knew that like if we did it, we would get called out by
Imagine if Israel did this to Palestinians. Imagine when American police do this, or if American police did this to black people, right? All of that would be horrible. Also, keep in mind, we're not even talking about, by the way, we're not even talking about like crimes or rioting or violence or anything else. We're just talking about pure political censorship. That's it. The fuck shit that Hassan's talking about isn't rioting, throwing stones at people. It's just pure political censorship. That's crazy.
Cops. Because like by and large, especially like the government is aware of like how they are perceived, or how much like anti-Chinese propaganda exists out there. And I think the older people are also aware of it as well, but I think the younger populations in China are ironically enough less aware. Like the younger normies are less aware of the animosity that exists, which shouldn't exist at all, obviously, but unfortunately does. And it's almost entirely one-sided, entirely designed by America. But yeah, we're white. So as foreigners in China at this like national event rather than an international one, where as you guys noticed, like they didn't have any like foreigners there at all. He thought he saw something on the phone. Like he thought we were like making a mockery. You know what I mean?
Making a mockery. So the police detained us and went through our electronic devices. Crazy, crazy, crazy how this guy cried like a baby bitch and was supported by so many people for being stopped for 15 minutes at TSA, but makes a full excuse for political propaganda being done in China where his devices get searched.
They didn't realize that we were swagged out white boys who love China. Are you being careful with your words? No, I'm just telling you like it is. Like they thought they were being extra attentive to make sure that no one is making fun of Mao or anything like that, or the ceremony, and that's what they were. That's what it was. It's normal for police to take a close look at foreigners to make sure that white people don't do stupid shit. Yeah, it's just it's a cultural difference, and also they just don't want anyone to pull a fucking Logan Paul or anything like that. How was it resolved? What do you mean? We just like talk to them. We just were like, no, that's not. We're not doing that at all. We're just here to experience the event. I told you would end up in jail. You got lucky this time. Yeah, okay, calm down. That's not. You're being ridiculous. This is actually one of the things that I want to show Americans in general, because like people have this like false assertion, false notion that it's people have this like false notion that it's like they will arrest you for a meme or whatever. It's not like that at all. Okay, calm down.
But they literally detained you looking for bad memes, and you said it was okay. We weren't making fun of Mao. We weren't making fun of their political leaders. This yellow coat was a coincidence. I wasn't actually dressed up like Winnie the Pooh. What are you talking about?
Yeah. It's funny because like I've dealt with cops at this point all around the world, as you guys know. So as far as like cops that I've dealt with all around the world, European cops in France, American cops, just European cops in other European countries, and even Japanese cops as well, I will say that it's not even remotely up there. The further west you go, the worse cops get, the more aggressive they get. America being the worst one out of all of them.
I'm sorry, my geography sucks. How much further west is Japan from China? Like, what are we talking about here, bro?
Honestly. This place is good. So.
Honestly, I think. Make a shout out. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Peace. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
A-cap.
This is the quintessential white boy American take, by the way. And I just want you to know, I know you don't see these guys online, but when there are people who live in like fucking Iran or in some fuck country with some fuck government, with some fuck police, and they see American white guys complaining about how brutal and authoritarian and dictatorial and crazy and evil American police are.
We're white. So
So as
Hassan, when a U.S. cop wishes him Happy New Year, ACAP. Hassan, when a Chinese cop detains him and searches his name for 10 minutes over a meme, or searches his phone for 10 minutes over a meme, they were just being extra attentive to make sure we weren't making fun of Mao. It's completely understandable since we're white. Based. Henry resilient response to fake document allegations. Were the documents not fake? Uh-oh.
Not knows. Yo, if you three-man push one guy and you can't even pick the corner and everybody dies, you say cheater. I think cheater too. I don't give a fucker. Fuck him. I think he's cheating too. I'll say how it is. I think Shroud is cheating. What about it? I stand on a business. Shroud is a fucking cheater. He cheats the aim. He knows he's cheating, and it's fucking annoying. Is that it?
I just
So
didn't
what?
know that
What do you do about it?
looked like from their perspective. Look at that clip.
Is he? He's memeing, right? Or is he? I can't tell.
I knew I fucked them up, but I didn't know what it looked like. It just not knows.
He's memeing, right? Because they got owned, right? So you would call him a cheater, which you should do, by the way. If you're a real true gamer, you have an obligation to call people cheaters when they outplay you. What are you going to do otherwise? That's obvious, okay, to the true gamers. I thought the rage bait was so obvious I didn't have to clarify. Oh, nice, okay. Jesus. Okay. Okay. I technically haven't. Well, I say I haven't packed. I only had not that much, but I'm probably going to the airport early just in case I need to catch a different flight for today. Because if I miss my flight, I'm going to have to kill myself. Or if one gets canceled. Do we have any final thoughts or memes before I disappear for a couple days? Introducing iPhone Pocket, a beautiful way to wear and carry an iPhone. What? No shot. This is not real. Apple.com. These things look hideous. The design of iPhone Pocket speaks to the bond between iPhone and its user. Check the price. Guaranteed these are $285. Oh. The long strap is $230 and this is $150. These look like normal like just a knitted whatever thing. Jesus. Apple slop. True. I imagine if any of you wanted tickets, you would already have them. I'll be at UCI. Be careful. I love you all. Wait. Sushia Darius highlight.
Literally, dude, you're a conniving, nasty bitch, and actually, genuinely, you should kill yourself. I'm looking at our messages. You were in the conversation with me and Melina about us all moving together in Portland. You are actually, listen, I get you have selective memory because you're stupid whore. Literally, dude.
Oh my god. Is the UCI debate live streamed? My guess would be no, but I don't know. They probably just record it. Is this your last scheduled debate of the year? No. I have... a conversation I'm having with some Israeli dude, Daniel Dushi, on the 26th. I don't think that would be much of a debate. The Yale thing is on the 3rd. I think that'll be more debatey. Dinesh D'Souza is on the 13th of December. And then AmFest, we're doing a whole event there on the 20th of December. And those are my.
And he was like not even like out of fucking grad school or whatever at the time. Like you were just being fucking weird as shit. Like you were like.
Why?
Day in my life. I decided that I wasn't gonna skip any classes today. I got to school and I put the roof on my car so no one steals it. I was running late to my English class. I knew my teacher would be mad, but I didn't expect her to mark me absent for being only 4 minutes late. So I packed my stuff and walked out. She kept asking where I was going, but I ignored her. Then we went to the guidance office and successfully dropped her class. Then we got Starbucks because we had like 45 minutes until our next class. And we both didn't eat breakfast, so we decided to walk to the dining hall. We didn't see this do not enter sign and we set off a loud alarm. Oopsies. We got in a little bit of trouble, but they just let us go. Then we made it to our computer class. The teacher's so chill, I actually like him. I was locked in, but my sister was online shopping the whole time. After this class, we had 2 hours off, so we decided to go home. We usually go shopping, but my sister didn't like her outfit, so she wanted to change. I tried racing another McLaren, but he didn't want the smoke. Then we made it back home, and after half an hour of relaxing, we had to start going back to school. I decided to switch cars because this one's more low-key. We had to rush to our next class because we were 20 minutes late. Luckily, this professor didn't care that we were late. This class is so boring. I watched TikTok and slept the whole time. Then we got drinks and started walking to our next class. This class has a table shortage, so my sister had to drag a table from another room. I took another nap. I was so exhausted, but I miraculously gained my energy once the school day was over. It was like 5 p.m., so we decided to get some dinner before going home. We decided on McDonald's. We just ate the food in the car. Then we finally got home. A few hours later, I went driving on my ATV, and I ran out of gas on my beach. We tried stealing gas from our Lambo, but it wasn't working, so we had to go to the gas station to fill up a little container. It took me a while to figure out because it was my first time getting gas, but the mission was successful, and my little brother filled up the ATV for me. And that's all for the vlog. Thank y'all for 700k. That's absolutely insane. This is another
average day of a person in my chat complaining that their student loans aren't being forgiven. Guaranteed. Okay. I love you guys. We're going to cappuccino, 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 cappuccino. Do it. Catch you guys next. Be careful.